Yo!
Wow, hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, man? Chat, we're here. Okay, wait. Let me pull up my OBS. Oh, here. Okay.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Doing fantastic.
That's good to hear. So, chat, if y'all don't know, this is Destiny, the Omni-Liberal. Um, he's known specifically for being a cuck. He potentially gave to a Nazi, and I have a lot of disagreements with him over his viewpoints of Palestine. So I will be going over that today. So I would say I have three main points that I disagree with you about.
Cool.
Do you want me to
Wait.
go over
Yeah, wait, real
them
quick.
or-
Let me just minus. So this is wait. What do you go by online?
You can call me Hasan, or Flacco's Palace, whatever you prefer. I don't really care.
Cool, gotcha. Do you live in America?
I live in Canada.
Okay, cool. All right. So this is a guy from Twitter, white dude, Westerner, no purpose in life, desperately wants to tie himself to some type of issue in the Middle East. So he's chosen the Palestinian. Doesn't know anything about it, feels strongly about it, but he decided to chirp at me on Twitter. And now we're going to have a awkward 20-minute conversation where we find out that he actually has no idea what the he's talking about. But yeah, all right. What do you want to start?
Okay. So I would say I have three main points that I disagree with you about. The first one being, I think Israel is an apartheid state, very clearly. The second point is there shouldn't be a two-state solution. There should be a one-state solution. And that Israel has been committing genocide in Gaza since October 2023. So if you want, we can go over in order. I would start with the apartheid state. I can explain my points to you. You can do a rebuttal now. It's up to you.
Go for it if you want.
All right, so just to begin with, I think it's fair to just define apartheid so we can kind of have like a mutual agreement on that. So right here, I have a quote that basically says, the crime against humanity of apartheid is perpetrated when particular serious human rights violations are committed with the purpose of establishing and maintaining a system of domination by one racial group over another and systematically oppressing them. So to begin with, I would say my first point is the legal duality that occurs for Palestinians versus for Israelis. So Palestinians live under military law versus Israelis live under civil law.
Wait.
For example, for
me
Palestinians,
real quick, the definition that you had, you said that
Yeah.
included domination over one racial group for another. Why are you talking about Israelis?
I'm talking about them as like an ethnicity because the way that Palestinians are treated versus Israelis is completely different.
Is Israeli an ethnicity?
Well, it's a nationality, but I think it still falls under the same premise because essentially, if you're not a Jewish Israeli, you don't have the same privileges as a Palestinian, and Palestinians can't even become Jewish.
How many? Wait, I thought aren't there Arabs that live in Israel that have citizenship?
Yes, but they still don't have the same rights, I would say. And I'm talking about the specific Palestinians versus Israelis, not Arab Israelis, because a lot of them aren't Palestinians as well, too.
Really?
Yeah.
You know that if you told one of them that, they would be incredibly offended, right? Like Arab Israelis consider themselves to be Palestinians, right?
Well, technically, they are Israelis now. They fall under the Israeli citizenship.
Being an
Like, they're not
Israeli has nothing to
Palestinians.
do with being an Arab or Palestinian, unless you're unironically making the argument that Palestinian is only a national identity. Is that what we're going to say? Do you want to go with that one, or?
Well, I'm talking about Palestinians that live in the West Bank or Gaza, specifically in the West Bank because of the way that they're treated compared to Israelis, people who fledged.
Yeah, you
full
keep
Israeli
saying
citizenship.
Israelis, but so your definition of apartheid was one racial group over another, and then you're going with Israeli, which is a nationality, and then it sounds like you're going to tell me that citizens of a country have more rights in that country than people who aren't citizens of that country. So I don't know if you're talking about a racial group, or I don't know if you're talking about citizens of one country or another, or
I'm talking about Palestinians that are specifically under a military occupation, which, if you'd allow me to state my point, the point I was making was in the West Bank, Palestinians are governed by Israeli military law, which grants the Israeli military extensive powers over civilian life. So this includes things such as allows prolonged detention without charge or trial under administrative detention, which is illegal under international law. It subjects civilians, including children, to military courts where conviction rates exceed 99%. And this is according to an Israeli human rights organization called B'Tselem. It also does not guarantee basic legal protections such as the right to a fair trial or the presumption of innocence towards Palestinians, versus, in stark contrast, Israeli settlers living in the illegal settlements in West Bank are subject to Israeli civil law. Despite residing in the same territory, civil law offers them the full legal protections, including the right to due process, legal representation, and appeals in civilian courts.
So did ChatGPT prepare the script for you, or?
Brother, I did my own research.
For when? Yesterday?
No, I've been doing my own research.
Okay.
Are you going to bring up any point, or are you just going to make some stupid remark?
Like you're reading a chat summary, like you're reading a chat summary or something. It's very obvious, right? Bet Salomon, Israeli human right. It's the human rights. Like that's even the phrasing of that was stupid. Like
you haven't came back against a single point I've made. You're just making some stupid remark.
No, I'm not. I'm sorry. I'm just remarking on your lack of knowledge when you accuse me of being racist, and that's where my opinions come from. You don't even know anything about the region. But the thing is that from the very beginning, you don't know. But that's fine. I'm glad you can pronounce Gaza correctly, being a white Canadian. Congratulations.
Yeah, Gaza. I'm Lebanese actually. I'm not a white Canadian. So I don't know where you got that from, buddy. At least I'm not Gusano.
Oh, wait a second. I'm sorry. So you have citizenship in Lebanon, or?
Yeah. I have a passport for Lebanon.
Oh, okay. Good job. I don't know why you introduced yourself as Canadian then, but okay.
You asked what country I'm from. Where do I live? You literally said that. I said I'm from Canada.
So you're from Canada. Lebanese. You live in Canada.
How many Canadian people do you know named Hasan, bro? Like, are you stupid?
Do you think that people from the Middle East don't live in Canada and the United States? What do you mean?
My original background is that I'm Lebanese.
Was I supposed to assume what country you were from because of your name? Is that what I was supposed to do? Is that the implication there? What?
Bro, I'm Lebanese. You introduced me as a white Canadian, bro. Like, come on.
No, because you're white. You're Canadian. Yeah, so okay. I'm not... For apartheid, in your definition, this is the one that you gave me, okay? You said that it was racial domination, and you're talking about national groups. In the United States of America, if you're a non-U.S. citizen on any U.S. territory, you don't have the same rights afforded to you as U.S. citizens. So, but that makes sense. It's gonna be true in every country. That's not apartheid. That's just being a citizen or not being a citizen. So I'm trying to figure out what is the racial domination part.
The domination is the way that Israelis are treated versus the way that Palestinians are specifically treated.
Again, do you understand that Israeli is not a race?
I understand, but I'm talking about the military occupation that goes over Palestinians.
Sure, if you want to talk about the military occupation, we could talk about that, but that's not apartheid then. By your definition, by the original definition in South Africa, it's racial domination. This doesn't sound like racial domination. This sounds like an issue with, you can talk about occupation, you could talk about different standards for citizens versus non-citizens in occupied territory, but I don't know what the apartheid part is when the definition that you gave is the racial domination part. Another reason why I know that you use ChatGPT is because if you follow any of the current readings, any Amnesty International, anybody talking about it, they usually don't have that racial domination part as part of their definition because that totally sinks this argument for this region. But you have it in here because you asked ChatGPT and they gave you the original. They gave you the original.
From Amnesty International, but you're assuming some other shit. Like, that's weird.
Okay, well, the massive fucking page that Amnesty International, when they write about the domination, the difference between like, it's not racial domination when you talk about the country of Israel. You're talking about Israel. That's a citizenship. That's a nationality. Yeah. There are Arabs. There are Arab Palestinians that live in Israel that are Israeli citizens. Here's a question: would an Arab Israeli have the same rights as people living in the West Bank who aren't Israeli citizens?
Okay, so I'm gonna continue with a quote specifically that talks about the way, because you have to understand that Israel governs the entire region.
Can I just tell you how gross
Palestinians are being treated versus Israelis?
It's so gross. Okay, I understand that, like, the need for, like, some people do red pill and Andrew Tate, and some people want to pretend that they're fucking Palestinian or whatever the fuck. But, like, why would you have the audacity to come here when you so clearly have no idea what you're talking? Or it's because because you think I don't know what I'm talking about. Never mind. I just got it. It all just clicked. I'm sorry. Read me your next quote. Go ahead.
So, this is from another human rights organization, an Israeli one, that basically talks about how roughly 15 million people, about half of them Jews and the other half Palestinians, live between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea under a single rule. Important point, under a single rule. The perception that there are two separate regimes in this country, a democracy on one side of the Green Line within Israeli sovereign borders and a temporary military occupation on the other, is divorced from reality. All of us, Jews and Palestinians alike, live in this area in a binational reality under a single regime. However, not everyone will be permitted to vote in the coming elections, which will determine the government and our lives in the coming years. About half of the population, all the Palestinians who live in this area, whether they are citizens, permanent residents, or subjects,
woman with no previous symptoms.
I'm so sorry. My thing just started playing. Sorry, go ahead.
no problem, are either fully or partially excluded from this decision-making process. One regime governs the entire area and the fate of everyone in it. This regime operates according to a single organizing principle, advancing and cementing the supremacy of one group over another, Jews over another, Palestinians. Under this regime, Jewish citizens have the monopoly on political power.
Okay. You
So
said
that's my personal viewpoint on what's going on with that.
Wait, was that your personal viewpoint or was that a quote from somebody?
That was a quote from B'Tselem, but I would say I agree with that viewpoint as well, too.
Okay. Wait, real quick. Can you look at your camera and repeat what you just said without reading that off?
You want me to repeat an entire quote just by looking at the camera?
No, I just want you to give me the gist of it.
So the main gist of it is that Palestinians are not treated the same as Jewish people. They do not have the same voting rights compared to Jewish people.
Oh, as Jewish people. Okay. So are Arab Palestinian Israelis that live in the country of Israel, are they not allowed to vote?
Well, I mean, they still have like certain things that I would say are a little bit different compared. Like, I'm talking about Palestinians versus Israelis specifically, because Palestinians are still governed under the Israeli regime. That's something you have to make important. Like, it's not like there's two different regimes that are there. Like, Palestinians in the West Bank are specifically dealing with the consequences of Israel. Palestinians in Gaza are dealing with a blockade, a siege on Gaza.
Do Palestinian Arabs in Israel, can they vote like Israeli citizens or?
Yeah, but you have to understand from the perspective that this is the occupier. This is the occupying regime. And these are people that are basically accepting the occupier. People that want to live there as Palestinians are treated completely differently. Unless they fully accept the Israeli regime, that's the only way. But it's not fair because these people are the occupiers.
Gotcha. So are Arab Palestinian Israelis, are they able to vote the same way that Jewish Israelis are able to vote?
I'm not talking about Arab Israeli specifically. I'm talking about the way Palestinians are being treated.
What are Palestinians to you? What does that mean to you?
People that live in the West Bank, people that live in Gaza.
All of them?
That are specifically dealing with military occupation.
So if I move to the West Bank or if I move to Gaza, am I a Palestinian?
People that are Palestinians. There are people that are living in illegal settlements in the West Bank.
What is a Palestinian? What does that mean to you?
People that live in Palestine that were specifically there from before that consider themselves Palestinian. You have to also understand that.
Wait, stop saying you have to understand.
Different ID
I understand
systems.
all of this. I'm asking you a very simple, easy question. What is a Palestinian? What does that mean to you?
What kind of fucking question, bro? There's different ID statements for different Palestinians. There's Palestinians that have specific residencies. There's Palestinians that are considered citizens. There's people that don't have any type of residency or ID card at all. Like, it's very, very discriminatory based on different types of things. And it's very difficult to get any of these types of permits or agreements in the first place.
Okay, I'm going to ask you again, I guess. What is a Palestinian? What does that mean?
What kind of stupid ass questions? What is a Palestinian? People that live in Palestine.
What is Palestine?
The fuck is... Okay, I'm just going to move on to my next point, Brex. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
You know how gross this is? Holy shit, you're grifting so fucking hard on this whole issue. Do you feel like any shame, or have you ever been to Lebanon before?
Yeah, I grew up there. I lived there most of my life.
Where?
In El Shuf.
Okay. And you don't know what a Palestinian is?
Why are you asking me what a Palestinian is? Do you know what a stupid question that is?
I'm trying to understand. You're from Lebanon. You said you lived there most of your life. You don't know what a Palestinian is.
Palestinians are people that live in Palestine. People that don't reside under an Israeli citizenship.
What is Palestine?
What the fuck's this guy saying, bruh? Am I talking to a parrot? Like Destiny, bro. What the fuck are you saying, bruh? What is Palestine? Is that your serious question towards me?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyways, so beyond the legal system, Palestinians also face
Wait, I'm just curious. Can you
oppression.
tell me what do you think Palestine is?
Oh my God. Palestine is the territory from the river to the sea, the Jordan River, the Mediterranean Sea, where people lived originally before 1948, where it became certain parts became occupied Palestine.
Okay, so all of that is Palestine. So then wouldn't the Arab Palestinians in Israel be Palestinians then?
Well, they're in occupied Palestine, which
Okay.
is essentially called Israel.
Are those people able to vote like the Jewish Israeli citizens?
Yeah, but I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the Palestinians who are still being discriminated against and that the military occupation directly applies to them. I'm not talking about people that are in Israel.
So what's
'Cause
the
there's
difference?
Moroccan
Sure.
Israelis.
So
There's
then
people
what's
that
the
came
difference?
from other areas as well.
What's the difference between Palestinians in the West Bank and Palestinians that live in Israel?
Thank you. Finally, not a fucking dumbass question, bruh. So, there's many different things that you could talk about. For example, freedom of movement. Palestinians are subjected to hundreds of military checkpoints across the West Bank, curfews, and the apartheid wall, which restricts access to schools, hospitals, and workplaces.
No, I'm asking you, what's the difference between Palestinians in the West Bank and Palestinians in Israel?
The way that they are treated by the military occupation.
Wait. So
that is the complete difference.
So Palestinians in Israel have more rights than Palestinians in the West Bank?
Yes, according to Israeli law.
Okay.
The way they are treated by Israel.
I agree. What you've just described then is not apartheid, because I just gave you the exact same racial group. One is a citizen and one isn't, and they're being treated differently on the basis of their citizenship. But your definition of apartheid said racial domination.
Yeah, I'm talking about the ones that are being discriminated against in Palestine.
But that it sounds like it's not because they're of their race, it's because they're not citizens.
Yeah, people that don't support the Zionist regime are going to be treated that way. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Okay, so for you, apartheid is when no citizenship then? Is that what, just to be clear?
No, apartheid is the unfair treatment of civilians in a specific area that they occupy.
That wasn't the definition that you gave me.
Because look at the way Palestinians are treated.
Okay, wait, scroll back up. Was racial? Can you reread me the racial domination part of your apartheid definition?
Yeah, so a system of domination by one racial group over another and systemically oppressing them.
Okay.
Which they are doing. They are systematically oppressing them.
But it sounds like they're not oppressing a racial group. They're oppressing a group of non-citizens who happen to majorly be of a certain race. But that same racial group
But they still occupy that area. They're in control of that area.
If you want to say they occupied, I'm not disagreeing with you there. Sure.
Yeah.
And if you want to say the treatment is even unfair or is it's an occupation that's gone on for way too long or whatever, that could be true as well. Sure. But it doesn't sound like it matches your definition of apartheid.
No, it definitely is apartheid.
Oh.
Palestinians are literally being treated under military law, bruh.
Is that apartheid? Military law is apartheid?
Towards a specific racial group, yes.
It's not
towards
Palestinians. Wait, so are the Palestinians in Israel subjected to military law?
No, because they're not a part of that regime. They're a part of the Zionist regime.
Yeah, so it's not a racial thing. It's a nationality thing. It's like, are you a citizen or not?
Yeah, but that's still...
That's
like
still
you're
apartheid?
deflecting from the original statement, but it's still wrong. Like you're justifying something that isn't correct.
Just to be clear, I'm not justifying shit. I'm just trying to get your fucking definitions right. I never said that it was a good thing, it was okay, it was morally acceptable. I never said that. I'm just saying that it doesn't match the definition of apartheid.
But you're sitting here focusing on the technicalities when I'm telling you about the way that Palestinians are being treated inhumanely in comparison to Israelis.
Then why not
and you're
say
sitting
that?
here looking at the technicalities
Yeah,
of a
because
word.
you're
It's
using
very
an incredibly
disingenuous
because you're
tactic.
using a technical word. Why use the technical word? Why not just focus on the unfair treatment or the lack of humanity or the lack of any long-term resolution or the lack of material access to things like water or food or whatever? Why are you focusing on apartheid? Why not just have the conversation about the actual conditions instead of using a technical word and then getting mad when people want to have a technical conversation about it?
Because you're specifically focusing on the word and you're not looking at
You
any of
brought
the
the
points
word.
that I'm making because you can't deny them. You're specifically just looking at that word.
Denying a point is not the same as denying your argument. For instance, if I say you're stupid and I say because the sky is blue, we all agree the sky is blue, but that doesn't mean you're stupid, right? That just because I agree with your underlying points doesn't mean they support the argument. If you want to say that the conditions are bad or that there's an occupation or there needs to be a resolution, that's fine. But you gave a definition of apartheid that included in it racial domination, but the exact same racial group seems to have incredibly different treatments depending on if they live in Israel as a citizen or not in Israel.
But that's still not unfair. If you look at, for example, like the way the Palestinians are treated in the West Bank, you can't specifically look at that and say that this is not an apartheid system. It is incredibly unfair in that sense.
Apartheid is when unfair?
Fucking guy.
All right, what's your next point?
So it says here as well, too, the dual legal system and the associated inhumane treatment of Palestinians fit the definition of apartheid as outlined by the International Convention on the Suppression and Punishment on the Crime of Apartheid. Amnesty International's 2022 report also concluded that Israel operated an apartheid regime that systematically oppresses Palestinians through legal, physical, and social mechanisms, which I would agree with.
Okay.
You can even look at the resource allocation as well, too. Palestinians in the West Bank are denied fair access to water, electricity, agricultural resources, and they are disproportionately allocated to Israeli settlements. And Gaza, the situation is even worse due to the ongoing blockade, which has created a full humanitarian crisis, with 97% of the water being supply being unfit for consumption.
Okay. None of this is apartheid, but okay.
Okay, so just to confirm, do you agree with any of the points I've been making that Israel, the way they treat Palestinians, is completely unfair, specifically in the West Bank, compared to how they treat Israeli citizens?
Yeah, I would say it's unfair for sure.
So you would agree that they both fall under the same regime, but the way that Palestinians are treated in the West Bank and Gaza is completely different to the way that Israelis are treated, like as one another.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, just wanted to confirm that. So yeah, I would say that's my main point. I got you to admit the points that I wanted, which is good. So my next point is that there should be.
Just to be clear, hold on. Do you think I've never said this before?
I think you always play like deceitful tactics where you kind of undermine the suffering that Palestinians go through. And for that, I just wanted to clarify and make sure that you understand that the way that Palestinians are treated, specifically in the West Bank and Gaza, is completely different to Israeli citizens, which is obviously something that is wrong.
Do you think? Hold on, I'm just a sanity check. Do you think I don't know that?
Well, you know it, but you haven't been making it clear. I feel like you're disingenuous with the statements because you might have some underlying racism towards Arabs.
Have you ever seen me have a debate with a pro-Zionist person?
I have, and I feel like a lot of your statements are very disingenuous, but
like
to be honest, they are kind of boring. For example, you'll talk about things like historical claims to the land, which is kind of like a broad statement. It can apply to both sides as well, too. You kind of try to undermine.
Yeah, go ahead. Wait, hold on. When you say historical claims to the land, do you think that I argue that like one side has a valid historical claim and the other doesn't?
That's what I assumed. Yeah, because you would argue based off things like legal foundations such as the Balfour Declaration and UN resolutions, which I also don't agree with because, again, it is an occupier versus the occupied. So it's unfair to say, like, yeah, just because the English people supported it, then, like, suddenly it becomes a fair thing to do. You also talk about Israel being the only democratic country in the Middle East, and they have to be upheld to a single specific standard compared to the way that other Arab countries, which are a lot worse, apparently, even though their treatment of people isn't as bad as the way they treat Palestinians. That's another thing I disagree with. You talk about their right to self-defense.
What is the other? Yeah. What is the other democracy in the Middle East?
There's other democracies in the Middle East. There's a lot of other issues, but in terms of the way that
which one?
Lebanon's a democracy.
That's the one that Hezbollah currently owns half the bottom of the country, right?
They're not really owning it. They're just mainly there as like a resistance group. They are getting a lot more political power now. I do agree with that, but there is still democratic processes involved. But again, the Middle East is quite corrupt in terms of their political standards.
Wait.
But in terms of the way they treat people,
how long did you live in Lebanon for?
A couple of years when I was younger.
Okay, you said you grew up in Lebanon. Now you said you lived there for 2 years. Hezbollah is just a resistance group.
2 years. Said a couple of years. They're a resistance group that's also maintaining political power now.
Okay.
So, just to get back on topic, my next point would be specifically that there should be a one-state solution rather than a two-state solution. I don't believe in having a two-state solution, just basically evident off of the way that Palestinians have been treated by Israelis for the past 76 years. Even before that, I would say since 1917, with the way they've conquested the labor and everything. I say that there should be a one-state solution where all citizens, regardless of ethnicity or religion,
you said conquest of the labor. Wait, what did that mean? I don't understand.
So specifically, when Zionists immigrated to the land and they took over the labor forces.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously, I think that a one-state solution would be better because of the long-endured systemic discrimination under Israeli policies, from the apartheid-like dual legal system in the West Bank to the siege of Gaza. A single democratic state would eliminate the legal and institutionalized segregation that defines the current system. Obviously, another huge thing would be the right of return for refugees. So, one of the central demands of Palestinians is the right of return for the millions of refugees and their descendants displaced during the Nakba and subsequent conflicts. A one-state solution could accommodate this demand, allowing Palestinians to return to their ancestral lands. And the United Nations General Assembly Resolution 3236 also reaffirms the inalienable right of Palestinians to return to their homes and property from which they have been displaced and uprooted, and calls for their return. So do you want to respond to that? Do you want me to explain further?
Do you think that do you think in a one-state solution, do you think Jewish people would feel safe in Israel?
Yeah, 100%. That's what occurred before. That's why so many Jewish people came to Palestine. They didn't feel the same discrimination they felt in Europe.
Okay. What's the third point?
So if we look at, for example, like the outcome of a two-state solution, another reason why I feel that it's unethical is that it has entrenched Israeli dominance and perpetuated Palestinian oppression. It also legitimizes the outcome of the ethnic cleansing. It basically implicitly accepts the results of the Nakba, which displaced many Palestinians from their historic homelands. It depopulated over 500 villages, leading to the deaths of 10,000 people and almost 1 million Palestinians being kicked out of their land. And by creating these two separate states, the solution leaves most refugees and their descendants permanently dispossessed, and it denies them their right of return. It also fails to address the settlement reality. So since the Oslo Accords, Israel has expanded illegal settlements in the West Bank, destroying the possibility of a contiguous Palestinian state. Today, more than 700,000 settlers live on Palestinian land, carving it into disconnected enclaves. A two-state solution would struggle to reverse these facts on the ground, leaving Palestinians with fragmented and not really viable territories.
That's crazy, man. Okay. I want to role play for a second, okay? I'm curious, all right? Tell me, okay. I'm going to set up a hypothetical scenario for you, all right? I want you to tell me what you would do in this situation, all right? Okay? Imagine you are extremely well-read and educated on a particular issue. Some person has incredibly strong thoughts on it. They bark at you on Twitter, and then they want to come on and talk about it. And it's very clear that they have absolutely no idea what they're talking about. What do you think the approach should be?
Well, I think responding to any of the points that they make would be a good start.
Okay. What if you feel like they can't substantively agree, like engage with the points? Do you just try to talk through all of them?
Well, that's what you've been attempting to do, but I've just been going back to it. And a lot of it you've ended up just kind of ignoring or focusing on specific details that don't really apply to the points that I've made.
Okay. In point 2, you said that Jews should feel safe in a one-state solution. Are you aware that there is no major Jewish population, basically, in like any Arab state left across the entire world?
Yeah, a lot of them migrated to Israel.
Are you aware that part of the reasons why a lot of them migrated to Israel is because there were pogroms and other forms of harassment and discrimination after the war in 48, after the war in 67, and after the war in 73?
See, that's a very disingenuous statement to call it the war in 48, the war in 67. The heightened response of people having these kind of attacks towards Jewish people is perpetuated because of the Nakba, because of the way that Zionists have kind of disillusioned the way that people perceive Jewish people on the land. There was a lot of people that
what do Jewish people in Israel have to do with Jewish people in Iraq or Jewish people in Egypt?
I'm not saying I agree with it, but I'm saying the reason for that being perpetuated
the reason
so much
for
higher,
the anti-Semitism, for the racism?
I'm talking about the reason for that happening is because of the Zionist militia terrorist groups that came in and they massacred Palestinians, depopulated their homes, committed horrible war crimes like the Deir Yassin massacre during the Nakba. And that is what led to the heightened rise of anti-Semitism. I'm not saying I agree with it, but you have to understand.
Hold on. I do understand. Stop saying you have to understand. I do understand. So you just said that that's what led to the rise of anti-Semitism. So you just said
yes,
that
the Zionist militia groups.
You said that those states then were anti-Semitic. Okay. So then why would you?
No.
You said there was a rise in anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism where?
Because of Zionist nature, because of the way that the Zionist militia groups attack Palestinians.
Yes, you said
the Arab lands.
Yes, but you said the rise in anti-Semitism. So rise in anti-Semitism in all the Arab countries?
It's not specific rise in anti-Semitism. It's mostly a rise in anti-Zionism.
Oh, so then the Jewish people in those Arab states felt unsafe and were getting pogromed and attacked because they were all Zionists?
There were many, like, I would say, unjust attacks, but you have to look at the reasoning behind it in comparison to why, like, for example, in Europe, it was a completely different scenario. Like, the Jewish people were just mainly being attacked. And in this instance, Zionists specifically initiated the attack, started killing Palestinians, doing inhumane things towards them.
I'm not talking
this
about
led to this heightened rise in other countries.
This led to a rise in other countries. Okay.
Yeah.
So if other countries felt like they had a reason to be anti-Semitic, why would Jews feel safe in a single state today? Are all those reasons to be anti-Semitic gone?
Under a one-state solution where Palestinians and Jewish people are treated equally, then of course. But under the current mindset where Jewish people are trying to create a majority Jewish state in Israel, of course, this is going to lead to a heightened rise of anti-Semitism. I'm not saying I agree with it, but this is the direct response of Zionism.
That's fine. It's a response of it. So that's fine. But I'm just, if the whole history for the past 80, 100 plus years or whatever has been anti-Semitism, maybe it was because of the Jews or they caused the anti-Semitism, sure. But if that was the case, and then if there's been basically nonstop terror attacks against Israeli people from Palestinian groups, why would they feel safe in a single state where they're an ethnic minority?
There was no terror groups specifically for Palestinian groups. There was response attacks after the Zionist militia groups attempted to wipe them out.
There were no terrorists. Wait, what do you think that like the PLO was?
The PLO was a Palestinian liberation organization to liberate themselves from Zionism.
Well, liberate them how?
By ending the Zionist regime.
How?
When you're facing a military occupation of a Zionist regime.
With terrorism.
Why are you calling it terrorism? Why aren't you calling Zionist terrorism?
Because they engaged in terrorist attacks. They hijacked airplanes and crashed them. They did the killing of the athletes in, was it Munich? What do you mean? They engaged in terror. Why do you think the PLO was kicked out of Jordan?
That was a terrorist attack. That was a terrorist attack as well too.
I don't know why you're countering me with other terrorist attacks. I'm not going to sit here and disagree that Israel hasn't engaged in stuff like this, but what you're telling me the Palestinians never have?
I'm telling you that the response is towards the Zionist terrorist attacks.
Sure.
You can't sit here and act like the resistance is not justified.
So it's justified when Palestinians hijack airplanes.
It's justified to respond against the brutal oppression and occupation that Palestinians face. If you look at specifically under international law, Palestinians have the right to resist.
They have the right to hijack airplanes? They have the right to hijack airplanes?
Why are you focusing on a specific event? I'm talking about the right to resist occupation, which is what they're doing.
So do they have the right to hijack airplanes?
This is enshrined under international law.
It's enshrined that they can hijack airplanes and kill athletes.
Well, you are such a disingenuous debater. I'm telling you, they have the right to resist occupation.
No, you understand that you're doing are you even aware right now that you're doing a disingenuous thing? You can't respond to the points. So you're repeating something that's non-responsive over and over and over again. You're using a debate tactic right now. I'm asking you a very clear question. I initially said, are you aware that...
I'm telling you, they have the right to resist occupation.
That's not saying anything. They don't have the right to commit terrorist attacks. Do you think they had the right to commit the attack on October 7th?
Well, I'm not going to get into that specifically, but I think that the response of October 7th is due to...
No, I don't want to get into
I'm telling you right now.
No, hold on. I don't want to talk about any of that. We can't even talk about like inciting events. So why?
No, I'm telling you right now, but you're not letting me speak.
No, because you're rambling. You're not even answering
I'm not rambling. I was literally just about to tell you right now. The response of October 7th was due to the brutal occupation and siege of Gaza that has been occurring for over 17 years.
Okay, so you think the October 7th attack was justified?
This is... Okay, I'm telling you, it was a response to the occupation the Palestinians faced. If you were in Gaza and 97% of the water was undrinkable, you were under a siege. You could not bring anything through land, air, water.
97% of the water is undrinkable?
97% of the water is undrinkable, correct. Yes, this was before October 7th.
How many people were dying from undrinkable water?
It was like the actual water streams there because they would destroy the water salination plants. But
So how are they surviving?
over 70% of the region in Gaza
3%
specifically
water
relied on aid.
So how are they surviving if 97% of the water is undrinkable?
Well, I'm telling you the statistics because over 70% of the population.
I know you're telling me a number. I'm asking you to use your brain. 97% of the water.
70% of the population had to rely on international humanitarian aid from companies, from organizations like UNRWA, that would specifically fund them with things. That is how they would. But if you're talking about the actual water supplies that would be coming from Gaza, it would be undrinkable. That's what I'm saying. International organizations had to step in because it was a humanitarian crisis.
From Gaza? What does that mean?
In the water salination plants that were destroyed. They would put cement in the water salination plants. This is the type of shit that these twisted Zionists would do. This is what led them into this attack.
The water.
You could say it was a disproportionate response, but I am telling you.
I don't know what you're talking about. Water. You said water salination plants?
Yeah.
What is the water?
You not know what that is?
No.
Okay. Do I have to go like Google this shit for you, bruh? Oh.
I guess to illustrate, the reason why this is funny is so it's not a water salination plant. What you're talking about is a water desalination plant.
Oh, my bad. Okay, I messed up the word. No, that's all me. That's all me.
There are no water sources in Gaza, right? It all has to come. I'm pretty sure all the water in Israel, I think the majority of it comes from the Galilee or whatever. They would have to desalinate it from the ocean, right?
Yeah.
From the Mediterranean, but they don't have. I mean, they don't even have the power for that, right? So all of this is being powered by Israel anyway, right? Now, because they've been locked off for economic opportunity, so
there's a blockade, a siege.
Sure,
yes,
yeah, there's okay, yeah. But I'm just saying, 97% water undrinkable. That seems like a pretty hard scenario. I don't know how anybody's alive there if 97% is literally undrinkable.
I'm telling you a statistic that has been
yes, you're giving me a number. You're giving me a number, yes. But I'm like, what? Hold on. What is your perception of how much I know about any of this?
Wikipedia articles.
Okay. But you can't contextualize a single thing you've told me or a single number or anything. So like,
I'm telling you the context behind it.
You don't know any of the context.
I've just explained the context behind it.
You didn't even know what a desalination
you asked me why I told you international human rights.
How can you explain to me the context behind? I can give you the context behind that number, by the way. That 97% undrinkable number is them measuring the water levels and saying that there are certain like heavy metals or toxins or whatever they feel like are too high for healthy consumption or whatever. That doesn't mean it's undrinkable though, right? Like there are probably It's not fit for consumption. That's the word I use specifically. I feel like you said undrinkable, but maybe I'm wrong there. I don't think I am, but. So I don't know why you're saying you're giving me context, but you're just reading me numbers and like you're like I'm looking at I know where you're reading a lot of stuff from, right? Like I'm on the Bedsalem website. I can just follow along with your paragraphs that you're reading, right? These aren't your original thoughts. So
exactly, I have to use statistics to back up my points. If I just sit here and tell you stuff, you'll be like, you're just giving me opinions. That's what you would say otherwise.
No. Well, the goal is you read stuff and then you integrate it into your own mind. And then you once you've assimilated that into your thoughts, then you give me coherent thoughts that are based on things you've read, not just big quotations of them, right?
And I gave you coherent thoughts from it.
When you do like online, I'll call it activism, right? But I don't think that's a bad word. I do to some extent, I guess. What is your goal, I guess, when you're talking about issues like this?
My goal is to raise attention to the fact that there's many disingenuous streamers like yourselves that don't properly speak about the way that Palestinians are being treated. They call this an Israeli-Palestinian conflict. They don't talk about the colonization of Palestine. They don't talk about the suffering that Palestinians have faced over this entire time frame. They try to make it seem as if there's two equal parts. This person has a justifiable right towards the land. This person has.
Okay,
when in
so
reality,
I understand that. And I can understand that frustration there. Okay, but I don't make any of these claims. I've never made any of these claims ever. All of those claims are fucking stupid. I would agree. I've debated a lot of insanely pro-Zionist people. I wouldn't agree with a single one of those claims. So I don't know where you get this.
But you still take a more Zionist perspective, which is incorrect.
Like, barely, but...
So now you're just backtracking and you're sitting here acting like you're not a Zionist and then trying to make me look stupid. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Where do you get most of your information about me from?
I mean, I'm just telling you the points that I personally believe in. I know the stuff that I saw the stuff that you personally believed in, and this is why I'm telling you the stuff that I believe in.
Okay.
As a response.
I'm just curious. Like, can you give me a single okay, I'm not trying to push you on specifics because it's not fair. Okay, I don't expect you to be able to quote verbatim everything I've ever said. But like, what is a thing that you think you've heard me say that you would disagree with?
Okay, so I remember I was watching a debate. I forget what the name. It was like a
Mm-hmm.
an Israeli article writer where you would specifically talk about the way that Palestinians are not really justified to have a response towards Israelis because Israelis have an entitlement to the land because they wouldn't feel safe otherwise, which I personally disagree with as well too.
Okay, so I don't think I've ever said that they have an entitlement to the land. What I've said is that I can understand why they went there, and I think that they can find historically justifications to be there. But I've said the exact same thing on the Palestinian side as well. I said that's one of the big issues with this conflict is depending on how far back you want to go in history. People will say history didn't start on October 7th, but then they'll try to pretend that history started in 1967. Or Palestinians will say, well, history actually started in 1948, and then Israelis say, well, actually it started in 47 with the Civil War, and then Palestinians say, well, actually it started in 1917 with your Balfour Declaration, and then Zionists will say, actually, well, it started in the late 1800s when we started to move in, and then when the Ottoman Empire was racist, and then well, actually it was when the Kingdom of Israel existed, and actually it was in the fall of Jerusalem when it like anybody can find. Do you agree with the statement that if you, depending on where you stop, anybody can find a historical justification to live in the region?
Not necessarily, because after a certain point, then you're mainly just looking at like something that can historically be proven. Like you're talking about the Kingdom of Israel from like thousands of years ago and everything. But we're looking at the people that specifically materially live on this land now.
Hold on, just to be clear, you don't think Israel as a kingdom, you don't think that ever existed?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Are you one of those people that think that like if you were to dig under the like Al-Aqsa, you wouldn't find like any Jewish shit?
I mean, yeah. I think if you're looking at the material reality of the situation now, you have to understand that Palestinians are being displaced from their homes, ethnically cleansed, massacred. You can't just look at things from 3,000 years ago and be like, well, we have an entitlement to this land because of this from 3,000 years ago. So now we get to go and massacre all your children and ethnically cleanse you from the land. Like, that doesn't make a justifiable sense to me.
Do you think that I don't even know where to go.
Oh my god, your fucking chat destroyed my chat, bruh. What the fuck? My chat got cooked, bruh. How many people are in this chat now?
You said before, you said that Jews and Palestinians had lived peacefully together. Why do you think there were ever Jews in that region?
Yeah, there are Jewish people that are indigenous to the land as well too, but a lot of them are settlers that came from European countries.
Stop doing the talking
too.
points. Why do you do the talking points? Just be a human being for like 2 seconds. I'm asking you where do those Jews even come from? You said indigenous.
There are Jewish people that are indigenous to the land. There are actual Arab Jews. I understand that point as well.
From where? Why are they there? From when?
There are people that live there that are Jewish, but I'm talking about the majority of
when did they come?
Israeli
where do they come from? Where do they start at? Why are there Jews that lived in the Levant?
Why are there Muslims that live in the Levant? Why are there Christians that live in the Levant?
Well, where did the Muslims come from? The Muslims came there from conquest, no? From Muhammad, from the...
No.
No, they were placed there in the beginning of time, or...
There's people that decided to become Muslim there. There's assimilation in the land.
Wait, are you an atheist or are you Muslim?
I'm actually like a smaller religion called Druze, which is like a religion from the Levant, but it's like a sector of Islam. It originates from Islam. Nah, I'm hate watching. Okay.
How many Druze are from Lebanon?
Sorry, Druze?
Yeah.
Oh. About like 750,000, and there's about 2 million in Syria. I'm someone that's actually indigenous to Levant. Like I could check my ancestry and everything, and I know I'd be indigenous there, which is cool.
How do the
But
Druze in
for a
general
lot of
feel
Zionists,
like,
they're actually from like.
how do the Jews feel like
Europe.
Hezbollah? Wait, what do you think about the fact that the Druze seemed like they wanted to join more like the Israeli side in 47, 48?
Yeah, I don't like that, honestly. That's another reason that I'm very vocal about the perspectives that I have, is that, I feel like there's a lot of people in my religion
I'm not asking you, like, I'm asking you, why do you think that happened?
it's propaganda, honestly. They fell
were
for
just-
propaganda, I'll be honest, which is unfortunate. They ended up becoming propaganda tools. It's divide and conquer. That's essentially how I see it. They let them believe that, we'll give you all these rights and beliefs and all this stuff, but you have to betray the Palestinian people. Which, again, this is why I don't agree with the original point, because you have to understand there's an occupier and an occupied. For you to just say the people that join forces with the occupier, they have more rights, so it's a justifiable thing, that doesn't make sense to me.
Do you think 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust?
I'm not a Holocaust denier, bro. I'm just a communist.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Obviously. But,
Obviously,
yeah,
what?
let me... Obviously, it did happen. I'm not a denier of
Did
anything.
6 million Jews die there, though?
Yeah. Why would I deny the number?
I'm just trying to gauge the anti-Semitism here.
Oh, yeah. You're hilarious. I don't have any hint of anti-Semitism in me. Fully anti-Zionism.
Okay.
So, another quote I just wanted to bring up towards you is, you could look at, for example, David Ben-Gurion, the Israeli first prime minister. He even said, this goes back into your earlier point, talking about the terrorism the Palestinians do. He said that viewing violence by Palestinian aggression was misleading because of this specific context. He says, end quote, "Let us not ignore the truth among ourselves. When we say that the Arabs are the aggressors and we defend ourselves, that is only half the truth. As regards our security and our life, we defend ourselves. But politically, we are the aggressors and they defend themselves. The country is theirs because they inhabit it, whereas we want to come here and settle down, and in their view, we want to take them away from their country." This is the first Israeli prime minister. He knows what he is. He knows what the Zionist regime is and the intentions behind it. So for you to sit here and act like it's some defending thing, it's a very disingenuous Zionist talking point that is often repeated, but I disagree with, of course.
Wait, what's the disingenuous Zionist talking point?
If you could try to listen, I said that he talks about how...
No, wait. I'm asking. You said I'm making a disingenuous Zionist talking point?
Yeah, you were before. Where you try to act as if Palestinians are committing terror attacks and they're the terrorists and stuff, but you have to understand that this started originally as them being the aggressors, the Zionists being the aggressors, and this is what led to the responses towards them.
Well, so do you think that Palestinians have never committed terrorism?
I think they committed terrorism against the Zionist regime, which I would justify. It's a right to resist against occupation.
You have a right to commit terrorist acts?
Right to resist against occupation.
Why do you keep restating right to resist? You know that right to resist isn't
because
right to commit terrorist attacks,
you're
right?
explaining it in a disingenuous talking point.
I'm just asking
I'm wording it properly.
No. So you can kill civilians? You think that the UN would protect that?
I don't believe in them killing civilians, but that's also not what happens a lot of the time. They're attacking military bases.
I'm not asking what happened a lot of the time. I'm asking in general, if you're an occupied people, you have the right to commit terrorist attacks against the civilian population.
No, I don't believe that.
Okay.
But I'm talking about the right to resist against the Zionist regime.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But you're miswording it to try to make it seem as if I support something else. It's another disingenuous talking point.
How is it disingenuous to just try to establish like a simple fact? I'm just trying to see if you agree that because initially you said the PLO did never
because you know what
terrorism.
I'm trying to say. You know what I'm inferring.
Well, I know what you're trying to do. What you're trying to do is you're trying to downplay any potential terrorist activity. You're trying to make it sound like all of the resistance was noble and there was very little, if any, terrorist attacks. That's what it sounds like you're saying.
Yeah, a majority of it. I would say so.
Okay. So like the suicide bombings all throughout like the Second Intifada and stuff in public areas, all of that was like justified and based active resistance?
You have to understand.
Why do you keep saying you have to understand? I do understand. What are you talking about? What do you think I don't understand?
Because you have to look at it from the position of Palestinians resisting against their occupiers.
You don't even know what Palestinians were. You still don't. I don't understand. I still don't, I'm not sure if you even know
I
what a
defined
Palestinian
it to
is.
you. You're asking me stupid ass questions. Like
It's
what
not
a
a stupid
Palestinian is. It doesn't make sense.
What a Palestinian is arguably like at the heart of one of the like largest points that gets argued about the history of Israel and Palestine. What do you mean that's a stupid question? Palestinian identity is a huge issue. It's not a stupid question. It's a really big deal to Arab Palestinians that live in Israel and to Arabs and Palestinians that live in the West Bank and Gaza. How can you say that's a stupid question?
Yeah, exactly. The people that live in Palestine are Palestinians. Very basic.
Are Druze and Negev people, are those all Palestinians?
I consider them as that, but they also are like traitors in a sense because they're supporting the Zionist regime, which is disgusting to me.
Okay, but people that like support like Hezbollah, those aren't traitors.
No, they're cool.
Okay.
They're resisting against imperialism.
Gotcha. And you think that in Lebanon, you don't care about like any political assassinations or any attempts to destabilize any part of the Lebanese government from Hezbollah?
I'm not talking about the political thing. I'm talking about them as a resistance group. I have disagreements with them politically, as do a lot of Lebanese people, but I'm talking about them as a resistance group. Their resistance against the Zionist imperialism is justified.
Yeah, but they're not just a resistance group. They occupy like the southern half of the country.
To say occupy is like, I wouldn't say a correct statement. If you go anywhere in South Lebanon, you'll see mass amounts of support for them because originally Israel occupied them during that time frame.
If you go to the southern part of Lebanon that's controlled by a group of people who will murder you if you disagree with them, everybody there agrees with them. Do you think that's an argument in favor of Hezbollah?
You think they'll murder you if you disagree with them? That's the perspective you have?
Yes.
Okay. I think that just shows more of your racism towards Arabs, in my opinion.
Who would they be murdering?
Why would they murder someone?
It would be other Arabs.
Unless someone is specifically causing harm towards them. Because you're just assuming that they're just going to, like, some, like, crazy terrorist regime that's going to murder anyone that tries to disagree with them.
I think it is a crazy terrorist regime. And I do think they would.
There's a lot of people from South Lebanon that do disagree with them. They say, like, you know, we shouldn't really be as involved with it. But you have to also understand the history of South Lebanon and Palestine. Before the occupiers came in Britain, South Lebanon and Palestine was essentially the same area. The currencies in Palestine can be used in South Lebanon as well, too. So there's a lot of historical context to understand when you're making statements like that, which I disagree with you on.
The currencies in South Lebanon could be used in the modern day. Wouldn't that just be the currencies of the entire Ottoman Empire?
No, I'm not talking about the Ottoman Empire region. I'm talking about pre-1948, back like during the British Mandate.
Hold on.
There is a shared history between them, so that's something you need to understand.
What was there before 1948?
The British Mandate.
Whose currency?
Actually,
do you
no.
think
Even
they
before
used?
that, there was still a.
Whose currency do you think they used when it was the British Mandate? The pound?
No, I'm talking about before the British Mandate. My bad.
Oh, do you remember what was before the British Mandate?
Well, that was when it was Palestine.
Oh, like the country of?
Yeah, Palestine. But you look at it from like a white person perspective where you don't really see it as like a country unless it's specifically like a country with borders and everything. But they just consider that area Palestine. They consider the area Lebanon. They just never had it like historically claimed until like a lot of countries started doing it later on towards the 1940s. Okay. Seems like you don't really have anything else to say, so I will go on to my next point. So my next point, I don't know if you disagree with this because I've seen you make.
Yeah, we'll do the next point. Just I guess because maybe for audience responsibility. That before the British Mandate, the country it was the Ottoman Empire. I don't. But okay, sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, but you have to understand there was a shared region between them. There was a train that went from Beirut all the way down to Jerusalem. Everything.
Yeah, it was the same fucking country.
That's why a lot of them feel a
part of the
historical
Ottoman
connection to
Empire,
Palestine.
ruled by the Turks. Yes, it was the same country. Yes.
Cool.
There was no country of Philistine or Palestine or any. That was not.
Oh,
a
they
country.
still considered it Palestine.
No. There was no country there of Palestine. There was a region that extended all the way from, I think, maybe even into the And to the, from the Sinai Peninsula up to around Lake Lebanon and Syria and stuff. I don't know where exactly it ended, but there was no country there. It was all part of the Ottoman Empire. But go ahead. What is the next part?
So this is actually something I would disagree with you on that you were talking about before, which you have been kind of hesitant to describe the genocide that's been happening in Gaza since October 2023. You've been hesitant to describe it as such, even though there is many features that show that it is a genocide. So first point that I have is starvation as a weapon of war. They cut off food and water supplies. Israel imposed a complete siege on Gaza, explicitly preventing the entry of water, food, medicine, and other essential supplies, even targeting international aid such as the World Central Kitchen and UNRWA. There was also a specific instance.
Sure, okay. So they've been cutting off like food and water and stuff for how long?
Yeah. Well, they've been controlling it since 2007, but especially after October 2023, that's when they were withholding humanitarian aid from entering towards the country. They were trying to get rid of UNRWA, which was one of the main organizations helping. World Central Kitchen, they bombed them, and then that led to them pulling out of Gaza as well too.
UNRWA was one of the main organizations. Wait, UNRWA was one of the main organizations to help the Palestinians?
Yeah.
Oh. What is okay. What does the UNRWA do again or whatever? Do they give food or?
Yeah, UNRWA is a part of like the United Nations. It's specifically like for Palestinian refugees. They help them out.
Okay. And you said they've been being sieged and cut off for how long? For like a year?
No, the siege in Gaza has been happening since 2005, 2007. I think it's 2005. Yeah.
They've been sieged for 17 years?
Yeah.
How many people have starved to death?
There's tons of people that have starved to death. But again, the siege is being lightened because of organizations like UNRWA that have been supporting them and trying to help out during this time frame. Over 70% of Gaza, as I was saying, relies on humanitarian organizations such as UNRWA to help them out.
How many people died of starvation though?
I don't know the specific number, but I've seen many videos of people like that have been like literally you can just see their bones and they're fully dead of starvation. Even children, especially in North Gaza, where humanitarian aid is not being allowed to pass.
Really?
Yeah.
Bones in their faces. Are you sure you're not thinking of pictures of children in Yemen?
Like bones, like their body is literally filled like bones. Like that, like there's nothing left on their skin, no meat.
Really? In Gaza?
Yeah, like why are you denying that?
Because I don't think these pictures don't exist.
Are you a Nazi? Like what is wrong with you? I'm telling you this, like, do you want me to go pull up the videos and pictures I've seen of Palestinian children that literally are at their bones and they don't have anything left and they've been starved to death?
Yeah, find one. To be clear, there's going to be a picture with multiple children who are skin and bones, right? Not one child in a hospital bed who is suffering from a disease or something, right? There's going to be like there's going to be like a picture of like lots of children that are all clearly like emaciated and starving to death, right? It's not
I found a picture of a Palestinian children that was
in a hospital bed,
dead due to malnutrition.
Oh, just one? Nobody could share a meal? There was just one person that died of malnutrition? Does that sound ordinary or normal in a place where tons of people are starving?
There was babies that literally had to be taken off of their incubators and killed after Israelis like bombed their hospitals as well too. Like I don't know why you're trying to.
I want to see the pictures of all these children who are skin and bones. You showed me a picture of somebody in a hospital bed. Okay.
That was skin and bones, correct?
You showed me a sick person in a hospital bed. I'm asking for all the people that are starving to death.
It says that they died of malnutrition. Like you want me to pull up like entire like videos, pictures? I don't have that on me right now, but I'm telling you.
You said there's tons of people starving to death. It should be super easy. Personally, you've seen it, but you went there.
I've seen it. I saw it on my phone. I've seen children that are literally like at their skin and bones and being killed.
Are you sure you're
Again,
not seeing pictures of children in like Yemen?
You're focusing
or
on a
other
specific
places?
fact.
I'm not supposed.
And
You
trying
said
to
that
delay
they've
the
been
topic
starved
because
to
you know
death.
you don't have a
You
response
said that there
to
were
me.
17 years of starvation when the population has exploded in that region and the obesity rate is like 20%. So I'm curious how you have that scenario where you've got like a fifth of your population is obese or something, and other people are starving to death. Are they like stealing?
I'm talking about since October 2023.
Oh, okay. How many people have died of starvation since then?
There's been a lot of people. I don't know the exact number, but I don't know why you're asking about a specific number.
Tens of thousands, thousands, hundreds.
Definitely thousands at least.
Thousands have died of starvation? Then I feel like we should be able
go
to
look at the Lancet study.
Yeah, fine.
You know the Lancet?
What's the Lancet?
You know the Lancet. It's a highly esteemed medical journal.
Oh, okay.
So even for them specifically, it says in recent conflict, you have to understand that the way the genocide is occurring is not just specifically through direct deaths of people being massacred and bombed.
Starvation
There's also
is
a
not
lot
a
of
direct
indirect
death.
deaths.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about an indirect death right now. You said thousands of people have died from starvation?
Yeah.
Okay, when did the Lancet said this?
It says, in recent conflicts such as indirect deaths range from 3 to 15 times the number of direct deaths, applying a conservative estimate of 4 indirect deaths per 1 direct death to the 37,396 deaths reported. It is not implausible to estimate that up to 186,000 or even more deaths could be attributed to the current conflict in Gaza. Using the 2022 Gaza Strip estimation of 2,375,259, this would translate to 7 to 9% of the population in the Gaza Strip. A report from February 7, 2024, at the time where the direct death toll was 28,000, estimated that without a ceasefire.
Yeah, so what you just said sounded to me like just an estimate made off some numbers. That didn't sound like any actual data collection whatsoever. I'm familiar with this.
Because
Lancet
it's hard to
paper,
do data collection when the entire health ministry's been bombed, the entire place has been bombed to ruins.
What you just said doesn't have any. Well, then how do they keep publishing the number of dead civilians if it's so
They
hard?
don't. They
Really?
don't. When have you seen it been updated past the 40,000 number? You think people will just stop dying in Gaza? Like, is that the point you're trying to make to me right now?
How did they update it to up to the 40,000 number? Was everything functioning right until what, like several months ago, or?
Yeah, but it's harder to keep track of it now because the way that they would keep track of the numbers is people that can directly identify the bodies. The 40,000 is the number of people that have been found and identified by other family members. There are a lot of people where just children would be left alone and they don't have any surviving parents.
That's not true. They were not using just identified dead people. They were going by media reports and missing person reports as well. That was one of the reasons why they had to downwardly adjust the number of women and children who were dead.
Okay, well, I'm telling you that the number has not been updated past then, but it is at least 186,000, and this is from
It's not
June.
at least. That's an estimate from a letter written to the Lancet.
It's not an estimate. It's a specific medical study that estimated that. And it literally says, in recent conflicts, such indirect deaths range from 3 to 15 times the number. So at least 3 times the number of the 37,000 deaths that have been reported. They did a conservative estimate of 4, and it's saying at least 186,000. And this was in July 10th, 2024. You're telling me that the number is not higher now, or at least this number?
What do you think an estimate is?
I'm telling you that this is a conservative estimate.
Yeah, it's
a conservative number.
It's an estimate based off of nothing.
Yes, I know.
This is not confirmed deaths. This isn't.
Because they're not specifically counting, they're counting the number of direct deaths, which was 37,000. But the number of indirect deaths would be much higher from people that have died because of diseases, malnutrition, lack of supplies, things like that. That is what is leading to the deaths, especially in places like northern Gaza, where the humanitarian aid is not reaching them.
Yeah, so this is like an estimation of like future possible deaths, maybe as a result of like war and conflict, not starving to death.
That's what it was saying, the number of deaths currently at this moment. And this was in July 2024. We are in December now, 5 months ago. So you're telling me the number is not at this high? It's just ridiculous. There's so many other points that I have here.
So to be clear, okay, so we have no starvation deaths, right? To be clear, you say the most you've got is the letter to the Lancet that has that says that these many people could die in the future if like the situation is not remedied. Basically, that's what we have.
No, it's saying specifically at this moment because they were not able to continuously keep track of the deaths. That's what it's saying.
No, what this is? Wait, I'm sorry. Read me
Look,
again.
it says here, collecting data is becoming increasingly difficult for the Gaza Health Ministry due to the destruction of much of the infrastructure. The ministry has had to augment its usual reporting based on people dying in hospitals or brought in dead with information from reliable media sources and first responders. This change has inevitably degraded the detailed data recorded previously. Consequently, the Gaza Health Ministry now reports the number of unidentified bodies among the total death toll. As of May 10, 2024, 30% of the 35,000 deaths were unidentified. So this is the problem. They can't really identify the deaths. They can't have the hospitals that are keeping track of all the people that are dying because the hospitals are being bombed as well too. So you have to understand that when you're applying the context, because now when all the hospitals in Gaza are being bombed, it's harder to keep track of all these people that are being massacred. At the start of the conflict, there were still functioning hospitals that could keep track of it. There's no infrastructure left now to do any of that.
What do you think that what you're reading is telling you?
I'm telling you that it is harder to keep track of all the deaths because
Hold
the
on,
hospitals.
link me. You know what? Let's fuck it. We'll do some reading. Link me exactly what you're reading. Link me the source.
Okay, perfect. I'll send you it. You should be reading this article. I don't know how you haven't read it yet, but it's not on Wikipedia, so I'm not surprised.
Good one. I am familiar with it. It was a thing by The Lancet. It's been like universally criticized. The Lancet themselves might have actually made a statement against it. I don't remember, but I am familiar with it. My guess is you've probably never actually opened this before. You probably read this off of some other website.
No, I have read it. I have
which
read
is
it
why
for
you
sure.
are making really weird and bizarre claims about it.
I've read you direct statements from it, and I've explained it properly to you, but I guess that's a bizarre statement.
Okay, so what do you think this is telling you? State it as simply as you can.
As simply as I can, because of the destruction of the infrastructure in Gaza, it has made it more difficult to count the dead in Palestine, the people that have been killed in Gaza. Because of that, there's no hospitals that have been able to properly count the number of dead people. They've had to rely on media reports, things such that have drastically slowed the number that has been increasing heavily at the start of the conflict and is now slowed much slower. So now they are attempting to count the dead by using a conservative estimate of up to at least 4 times what the actual confirmed number was, which was 186,000. But this is from July. I'm telling you now the number is even higher. I would estimate it to be at least 200,000 or 300,000.
Sure. So this is an estimation that's just based off of other conflicts, and they're just multiplying the number of dead in this region by like 3 to 15 times, and that's
yeah,
it.
Anywhere from 3 to 15 times. It's saying they did a conservative number of 4. It could have been much higher. The actual number could be closer to 500,000 for all we know. But
So
we
you
can't
think a
confirm
quarter
that.
of the population could be dead, and we just have no
possibly.
idea.
Have you seen the destruction in Gaza currently? Like, the entire place has become destroyed. Liberals like yourself talk about Gaza being turned into a parking lot. It essentially has become turned into a parking lot. People are living in tents. There's no residential buildings left. They've destroyed every structural building, supermarkets, hospitals, schools. They're fully attempting to destroy any possible life and make Gaza as uninhabitable as possible. And that is the point I'm trying to make towards you.
Okay, so to be clear then, so the best example that you have of starvation is somebody took the current number of deaths and then they multiplied it by 10 and said maybe this many people are dead, and that's it.
You do not understand anything I have said. I am telling you that it is impossible to specifically count the number of people because of all the infrastructure that has been destroyed.
I understand
in Gaza.
that. So what I'm asking, I'm restating
why are you not
that.
acknowledging that?
I'm sure it can be hard to keep track of people. You're the one that said earlier that they were identifying bodies. That's not true. But so I'm asking you.
They were originally, and I agreed with you that they otherwise had to use media reports because of that, because they were not able to continuously identify them because of the destruction of all the infrastructure in Gaza.
Even as of May 10th, 2024, when they were at 35,000 deaths, 30% of those deaths were unidentified.
Yeah.
Okay. So not just after 40,000, but even when they were only reporting 35,000, okay?
Yeah.
They weren't...
That's what made it more difficult.
Okay. So there's nothing going past 40,000 deaths or anything like that. Okay. So the only evidence that you have that mass starvation is happening or whatever is somebody took that number and they said, well, in armed conflict, there can be indirect...
I actually have another. I have another.
No. Just one thing, okay? Because we still haven't gotten anything from starvation. The estimate that you gave had to do with indirect health implications beyond like the harm from violence and everything. Like,
okay, I'm gonna send you another article.
No. I just want you to be clear so we understand, right? That you're talking about a death toll to where somebody might get like a cold or the flu and have like and die like a year from now or something like that. Like, this is like the type of thing that this is estimating.
It's talking about indirect deaths. It could be the cause of malnutrition or a disease specifically. It could be the cause of someone dying from the rubble. It could be cause of...
rubble is not an indirect death. This is talking about indirect deaths from health stuff.
Yeah, I know. But I'm saying, let's say like
rubble.
Because of like technically it would be like the uncleanliness of that area. It could lead to like a disease being caught. So that is like kind of like an indirect death. But if you're talking about someone specifically being crushed, that would be a direct death for sure.
Okay. You also understand that this would assume that there is absolutely no help given to the region afterwards, right?
Well, a lot of the help has been kind of withdrawn from it. If you look at, for example, the humanitarian aid trucks have not been able to pass directly from them.
Forever? For the whole war?
Not for the whole war, but I'm talking about the majority of the time. There's a lot of time frames. And
then how many people starved to death?
I don't know.
Shouldn't there
the
be like hundreds
number.
or thousands or tens of thousands? There's no information, no data.
And again, there is no health ministry that is able to keep track of this. Why are you making me repeat my point?
So nobody can track who starved. Why don't we have videos and pictures of people? Shouldn't we be able to easily look up?
So you're gonna go and count every single video. Please, Destiny, go and count every single video of a starving and dead Palestinian children for me, and come back to me, because that's what you want me to do, right? You want me to go look at all the pictures and videos.
I just want to say like one.
I showed you one. I literally went on my phone and showed you one.
You showed me a person in a hospital bed.
And it says that the cause of their death was malnutrition. What do you want me to do? Go and ask them how they died? Like, I don't know what more you want me to confirm with you from.
Okay, if I were to Google, like, here's a question. Okay, here. Do these children in this video, I'll just link you some. In this NBC video, okay, now this is back in February, so that maybe they're starting to thin out. Do these children look emaciated or starving to death to you?
Oh shit, I have to turn off my ad blocker. But yeah, to answer your point, they don't specifically look like that, but it depends on the area that they're in. If they're in South Gaza, they can access a lot more humanitarian aid. The people in North Gaza have very clearly not been able to access that same humanitarian aid. That is where the problem lies.
Okay, should I be able to find... So there are no pictures or videos of all these emaciated, starving children in North Gaza, right? That was just wrong. You just made that up. So
I will find videos and I will send you them afterwards. I don't have videos of them on the moment.
You said there are thousands of them. It should be super easy to find them. So I don't know why you're saying, I'll go and search for it. It should be one Google search away. You should see a ton of them, right?
I mean, I searched and I found one video specifically,
Only
but I have
one?
to look for
How?
more. I'm not going to sit here and spend the whole stream looking at my phone for videos.
Okay. So there's nothing there. Okay. What was the next point?
Okay, so there's also a point specifically from the Refugees International that talks about how Israel obstructs the aid to Gaza and how they are specifically trying to block the humanitarian aid from going there. I've also sent you that article so you can read it.
So no humanitarian aid gets into Gaza or what?
They're specifically obstructing humanitarian aid from going in. And even the ones that did go in, I saw a video of them pouring a bag of flour and it was literally sand. This is the type of tactics they use to starve Palestinians.
Oh,
they want to be as responsible.
How have none of them starved then, if they're sending sand in instead of flour? Why is it that we can look at the COGAT numbers and we can see... How is it a Nazi talking point? To be factually correct?
Because it's not factually correct. I'm telling you, Palestinians have starved.
But then
the ones in North
you're
Gaza
telling me,
starving.
with no evidence.
It takes someone multiple weeks of not ingesting any type of food for starvation. It doesn't mean that they're still... Like, it doesn't mean that they're going to starve to death, but they're still facing extremely inhumane conditions that are going to lead to malnutrition over time.
Sure. You know
it's
that,
not going to
like,
happen.
You know that, like, it's been more than multiple weeks since the war began, right?
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
But I'm saying it's going to take months of them on this type of food diet.
It's been more than months since the war began, right?
I know. I'm saying that. But I'm saying they're not all going to pass away at the same time. There's going to be different opportunities for different people.
Okay, there's been like a year's worth of opportunities. Shouldn't a ton of, wouldn't you expect, let's do like a sanity check. Wouldn't you expect like tons and tons of people to be starving to death if aid has been blocked this whole time?
Aid is being withheld. It's coming a lot slower. It's not being able to go to everyone. People in South Gaza are able to get a lot of aid. People in North Gaza are having a lot of aid blocked towards them. They're fully trying to ethnically cleanse that area.
Okay,
That's
let's say, okay, hypothetically, let's say it's true. How many efforts has Hamas gone through to ensure that aid gets to people?
They have been trying to do hostage situations, hostage deals.
I'm going to repeat this. I'm just going to cut you off. I'm going to
times.
repeat it. This is, so to be clear, that was a bad faith debate bro tactic where you did an irrelevant response to a very simple question. I'll ask again. My simple question was, what has Hamas done to try to get aid to people? I didn't ask anything about hostage negotiations or anything like that.
That's what I'm telling you. They have tried to.
What has Hamas done to facilitate aid to their people during the
conflict? How are they supposed to facilitate aid when there's a full-on siege on Gaza?
Are you
Israel controls everything that goes in and goes out?
Are you aware that it's a war crime? Are you aware that you're talking about war crimes when you're not taking care of your civilian population during war, like setting up humanitarian corridors and ensuring that they have like access to food and water and safe shelters?
But you can't consider it a war crime when they are literally under siege.
Do you know that's a war crime? So you don't think that's a war crime? I'm
telling you, they're under siege. They do not have control of what goes in.
That was another bad faith bro, like debate bro tactic. You're doing a bad faith debate bro tactic. You're doing a bad faith. You're debate broing me. I'm asking you a very simple question. Do you think, or maybe you disagree? I don't know. Fuck. Israelis don't like humanitarian law. Maybe you got more Jew in you than you realize. Okay. So do you think that under international humanitarian law, do you think that you have an obligation to your civilian population, or no? Yes or no? Do you think you do or you don't to try to do what you can?
Yes, they do, but you have to understand the context of the situation.
So they do have an occupation, or they do have an obligation. Okay.
So they do have an occupation. That is correct.
Yeah, Hamas has occupied the Gaza Strip for a while. I agree. So what has Hamas done to protect their civilian population?
What are they able to do when they're literally bombing them?
What are they able to do when they're literally bombing them? Have they built any tunnels for civilians, or do they only build it for their military?
I mean, that's what a lot of Zionists say. There probably is a lot of tunnels.
Really? For their civilians?
Yeah. Civilians could probably go into. I don't know the exact situation.
Civilians could go into Hamas tunnel. You think civilians are allowed into the Hamas tunnels?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
If they exist, then for sure.
If they exist, wait, do you not even believe they exist?
How am I supposed to confirm that? This is not something that's easily confirmable.
Now, see, here's like the difference, right? So you said that you couldn't find any videos of anybody starving, but if I Google like Hamas tunnels, you don't think that there aren't videos of people going through like miles of tunnel in fucking Gaza, in South Lebanon, and what do you mean?
Yeah, there is tunnels, of course.
Okay, so there are tunnels. Are civilians allowed in these tunnels?
Potentially. I don't know the
Okay, the answer is no. They're not. They're not allowed in those tunnels. No, that's never happened. Well, sorry, that's not true. There are some Israeli civilians. There are Israeli civilians in the form of hostages that are sometimes in the tunnels, but no. So there are no tunnels.
What about the 2.3 million hostages in Gaza that are all there? Like,
can you link me the bomb shelters that Hamas has built for their civilian population? Just one bomb shelter? I'm sure, certainly they've made something, right?
Like, why do you expect that? Like, this is like, why do they need to go and bomb civilians then? Why is that a justifiable response? This is literally collective punishment.
I'm asking you on the Hamas side. I'm saying, has Hamas ever built a single bomb shelter ever in the history of the entire Gaza Strip?
You're the one that's talking about Hamas not being an ethical organization. Now you're asking me to defend them. I'm not saying Hamas is perfect. I'm saying Israel is committing war crimes. They're committing genocide. They're committing collective punishment upon the entire region. This is the point I'm trying to make. Do you condemn collective punishment? Do you think what Israel is doing is collective punishment?
There might be aspects of it that are, sure.
Oh yeah, aspects of it. Yeah, like carpet bombing the entire region. That's not collective punishment. Yeah,
why would they? Sure. How is it? Can you tell me if they carpet bomb the entire region? How have they only killed like 50,000 people? Wouldn't that be like over 1 million people dead?
Again, go back to the original point. They are not able to directly keep track because all the infrastructure has been bombed. Everything has been bombed to the point where even the infrastructure for the Gaza Health Ministry.
Sure, but let's say wait. You think they carpet bombed? You think they carpet bombed the Gaza Strip?
Yeah.
Okay. Why shouldn't we expect to see like 500,000, 1 million people dead?
That is possibly what the situation is. I'm telling you.
You think there could be 500,000? You think there could be 500? You think there could be 500,000 dead Palestinians?
Yeah, there could be for sure.
And we're 90% off on the number.
I'm telling you right now that they gave a conservative estimate of at least 186,000. It is definitely more than that because they are not able to keep track
The
of the
conservative
civilian deaths now.
estimate is based on possible future medical conditions if no aid or anything else is rebuilt in the region.
This guy, bro. I'm telling you right now, they are not able to keep track of it because they don't have the infrastructure to do so. If the entire infrastructure was wiped out,
is it possible that 1 million people could be dead?
why are you asking me this question? I don't know.
Is it possible
I'm telling
2 million?
you that there's
Is
a
it possible that
possibility.
is it possible that every single Palestinian is already dead and we don't even realize it?
Like, this is a bad faith debate
No,
throw
I'm just
tactic. If
asking.
you want to talk about that,
I'm
then
just
that's what
asking.
you're
I'm just
doing.
saying, is it possible that every single Palestinian is already dead and we're arguing for nothing? Maybe they're all dead already. Is that possible?
No, that's obviously a stupid point because there would have been journalists talking about that.
Oh, but there wouldn't be journalists talking if a quarter of the population was dead. If 500,000.
You think one specific journalist that's all, like, they're disparted now. They're all in different areas. A lot of them that are there are just in one specific area, like the ones in northern Gaza, the one in south Gaza, the one in, the ones in those type of areas. They don't know about the entire region. They can't make a collective agreement for the entire region. Like, this is such a stupid point they are making.
If that's the case, then shouldn't Hamas surrender so that we can move on to the humanitarian part?
Go look up all the times that Hamas has tried to do a hostage agreement with Israel that they have specifically denied it. Even like 2 days after
Do you see how you just did another debate bro tactic? How I asked if Hamas should surrender. You go, well, look at when they've tried to do like a hostage negotiation. I'm asking you, shouldn't Hamas surrender then to move forward in for the humanitarian situation?
I think at this point, yes, there is a lot of people that don't agree with that, but they have also tried that because they want to get back the Palestinian detainees that are in Israel that are being illegally held against their will.
Oh, okay. So then they weren't trying to surrender. They were trying to do a hostage swap after illegally. Do you agree that taking hostages is a war crime?
Yeah, well, the 2.3 Palestinians in Gaza are basically hostages. They're in an open-air prison. They're not allowed to leave or join.
You agree that Hamas taking hostages on October 7th is a war crime. So you're saying that they tried to end the war by swapping their hostages with people that have been detained or that are prisoners in Israeli prisons? That was their peace agreement?
Yes, exactly. Because there are Palestinians that are there illegally.
They weren't going to agree to long-term peace, right? These were always just for temporary ceasefires, right?
No, there was always an agreement for long-term peace.
No.
There was one that was there from the beginning.
No.
The reason they committed that attack and they got these people. Okay, well, you're just saying it's not true. I'm telling you it is true.
Oh, show it to me then. Go find it. Go find me the original agreement that would have guaranteed long-term peace, where Hamas said...
The original agreement that would have agreed long-term peace is if the Palestinian detainees, the ones that were in the prison, that were held there against their will without a specific reason, were given to Gaza, they would be released, and there would be a ceasefire agreement.
Oh,
Israel is the one that always destroys...
A temporary ceasefire, so not peace. So, okay, thanks. I'm glad you got that debate bro tactic out of the way to call a temporary ceasefire.
Of course, like, they're always going to resist against the genocide.
Okay, cool. So then there was no peace agreement. Okay.
I'm telling you right now that there would have been a ceasefire agreement.
That's fine. We weren't asking if there would have been a temporary ceasefire agreement. I was asking if
I'm not talking about temporary ceasefire. You know what a ceasefire is? Not a temporary ceasefire. It's a ceasefire. And I'm telling you, that's what would have happened.
Are definitionally temporary. Ceasefire means we're not going to shoot at each other right now.
Yeah. And that's what they would have done.
That's not peace.
There would have been peace if they brought back the hostages that were being taken in Palestine. I mean, in occupied Palestine. All the ones that have been detained against their will and they are not given a specific reason, that is the main reason that the hostages were taken.
Was it really just people that have been detained without being given a reason, or does it also include people who are convicted of like actual terrorist attacks?
No, it was the people that have been convicted without a specific reason. They don't have any specific reason. They're just being detained there against their will, which
really?
is
And
another
proper?
war
You don't
crime.
think it wasn't the release of every single person that was like involved with like anything having to do with Gaza or Hamas? Wasn't the original ceasefire agreement that they were going for was literally the emptying of all the prisons of the people from Gaza?
I mean, a lot of the people that have been in prison are for reasons that I would say are not really justified. Like, they would consider a child throwing a rock as like a terrorism act.
Now we say it's not justified, but before we said it was for no reason. So you think, so there are reasons, you just don't agree with them.
No, you didn't hear what I said properly. I'm talking about there are a lot of prisoners that were held for unjustified reasons as well, too. As I said earlier, there's a 99% conviction rate because it's under a criminal court. It is unfair in the way that they are treated. That is the way that everything goes. So, like for example, like let's say a child goes and he's like 12 years old. He throws a rock at an Israeli soldier. He's gone. He's in prison. This is not a fair way to treat a child. Like this is the type of shit they do. A lot of times as well too.
I'm just curious.
They
In
will make
America
them-
or Canada, what do you think happens if you sling a rock at somebody? If you're a kid, if you're 12 or 13 years old, what do you think happens?
I mean, I don't think they put them in a criminal court and they try to arrest them.
By definition, it's a criminal activity. You know, you can't just sling rocks at people's heads, right? You know that's like illegal.
Yeah, but
even
for
in Canada,
children, like
even
for
a
example,
child, yeah, even a 13 or 12-year-old can't sling rocks at people's heads.
I'm telling you right now, I have this before. Look, the way that Israeli settlers are treated, they are given civil law
We're not
offers.
talking.
They
Yes,
give them
you're
full legal
talking about
protections.
differences between the West Bank and Israeli citizens living in the West Bank. We're just talking about all the people in Israeli prisons.
Yeah, and they have to deal with the occupied Israeli regime, which overpowers them. They're the ones in power.
That's fine. That
They
doesn't
make
have
the
anything to
decisions
do
for
with
them.
slinging rocks at people's heads and then saying that
I'm talking about a 12-year-old child.
slinging a rock
A
at
kid.
somebody. That's illegal. You can't do that.
They
You know
throw
you
a
can't.
rock.
You can't do that in Canada. In your country, you can't do that. You know that, right?
I know.
You'll probably
But
you go to like
you think if
juvenile
a 12-year-old
detention
does that to a cop, they're gonna go and throw them in prison, in an actual prison,
or
They're gonna put them
juvenile
in a criminal
detention or
court?
something. Probably, yeah. Depending on what you've
Yeah,
done.
you think Palestinians go to juvenile detention? That's not where they go to. I'm telling you. And the way they're treated in these specific areas is incredibly inhumane.
So, I mean, there are like thousands or hundreds of them dying in Israeli prisons, or
Okay. So continuing on, I would say another issue is that the mass forced evacuations that happened, the forcible displacement, Israel ordered over 1.1 million Palestinians, nearly half of Gaza's population, to evacuate from northern Gaza to the south under the threat of military strikes. This process itself caused death and suffering as civilians were bombed while fleeing. And if you look at specifically the Fourth Geneva Convention, forcible transfer of a population is prohibited, and it qualifies under genocide under Article 2E when carried out with the intent to destroy a group.
yeah. So, firstly,
It's another form of genocide.
forcible transfer of a population is from one territory to another. Okay, and you said for the purpose of destroying a group.
Yeah.
Why did they force them to move again?
They wanted to ethnically cleanse them from that area.
What did
They
you
wanted
just
to get rid
reread
of
what
all
you
the
said?
Palestinians in
Reread
North
what you
Gaza.
said. Hold on. If you're going to
Okay.
bomb an area because you want to get rid of a people, why would you tell the people to leave the area that you're about to bomb?
They were bombing them as they were moving.
I'm asking
there
you.
were people
Let
in
me
the north that
restate
were
the
coming
question
south.
again. I don't know. You can't. That was another bad faith debate bro tactic. Okay, you just like pivot and you just say a random thing.
I
you've heard
ain't even
before.
bad faith debate, bro. Tactics,
Why
bro.
is it that if you're going to bomb an area, why would you tell people to leave before you bomb it if you're trying to get rid of all those people?
Okay, while they were leaving, they were bombing the areas that
I'm
Palestinians
gonna
were
ask the
walking
same
through.
question when you're done. Just let me get a rebel. Hold on.
Chat, are y'all seeing this, bruh? This is the most bad faith debate I've ever seen in my life, bruh. Oh my god, bruh.
Okay. If your goal was to eliminate a group of people, why would you tell them to leave the area that you're about to bomb?
Again, as I was saying, they're trying to displace them from the land, and as they were walking, there was areas that were bombed that Palestinians were walking through. This
Do you
is
think they
what
could have killed
happened.
more? Okay, so then they must have killed millions or whatever, I guess, as they were walking, or what?
My god, this is such a bad faith tactic. Like,
How
what
is
are
it a
you
bad
doing?
faith tactic? What is the goal of telling them to leave? To kill them?
They want to ethnically cleanse them from the land.
So then why not
They
just have
told
them
them,
stay there and
you have
kill
to
them if
go-
they're carpet
You have to go
bombing
from
them?
North Gaza.
Why not just
to
stay
Central
them?
Gaza,
Yeah.
South Gaza, then Rafah. They moved them all to this area, and they continued bombing in Rafah. So how are you going to justify that? Why would they tell them to move to a safe zone? And in these safe zones, they're still being airstriked. Like, it doesn't make sense to me.
So the
How are
safe
you
zone was
justifying this
that-
in any way?
The safe zone was the Al Mawahi Beach or whatever, was supposed to be the safe zone.
Supposed to be. Keyword.
Well, I'm pretty sure it was.
Oh, yeah.
For the
Pretty
entire
sure.
time. More sure than you are on literally a single thing you've spoken about in this entire fucking conversation. Okay. So
Yep.
then shouldn't there be, as the people are fleeing northern Gaza, it doesn't even make sense. Why would you just bomb them in their homes? Like, wouldn't it be easier to kill a ton of people if they're just like all in their homes? Like, you just bomb them, and because you said they're carpet bombing them anyway.
Because
right?
there's still idiots like yourself, Destiny, that will try to justify their actions. If they just go and completely wipe out Gaza and nuke the entire area, there is no one stupid enough, not even you, that would be able to justify these type of actions.
Wait. So they haven't carpet bombed, or they have carpet bombed?
They did. I'm telling you that.
Then
but they also wanted to forcibly displace them. This is them. They'll be like, okay, you have to leave this area, and then we're going to bomb the area anyways. And there was a lot of people that didn't leave North Gaza as well too, and they got bombed. And the people that were leaving,
what are the chances,
they got bombed as well too on the way.
What are the chances that they told them to leave so that there would be less people dying when they bombed the area?
They did that, and then they also bombed the people that were out of their homes and walking on the streets as well too. So it contradicts the statement that you're trying to make.
It doesn't contradict the statement that I'm trying to make.
Yes, it does. Because if they actually cared about them, they would have waited until the people actually left and bombed the area, which is still wrong because, as I said, forcible transfer of a population is prohibited under the 4th Geneva Convention. It's a forcible transfer of a population. And there was a denial of a safe zone. Again, collective punishment, all these types of things are all war crimes. They are specifically under the Geneva Convention. That is wrong.
Okay, let's try this.
You are not condemning.
Okay,
you are sitting here and trying to justify with your bad faith tactics.
This will be the last one. We'll see if we can settle on this or not. What you're talking about is not forcible forcible transfer of a population, right? You understand that, right?
Okay.
That no. if you tell somebody we're going to bomb this area, so you need to leave, that's not forcible transfer of a population, right?
It's forcible transfer of population to get everyone to leave, and they were still bombing them anyways. This is the point I'm trying to make.
Why is this?
Even regardless, if you justify,
do you understand that you're doing a debate tactic right now? Do you understand that this is like a debate tactic? You're not answering my question, and then you just like say a fact, right? Like, do you perceive that you're doing it?
Because I'm telling you, your question is stupid. It's a bad faith question in the first place. So I'm giving you a bad faith response.
It's a bad faith question to ask you if telling people you're going to bomb an area so you should leave is a war crime.
Why would they bomb the entire area though? You know that counts as collective punishment. They're bombing the entire people's homes.
Do you say you just did it again? You just pivoted to another like factoid? Yeah. Collective punishment, right? You're just like saying like buzzwords and slogans you've heard, right? So you think that any time...
I think that's a buzzword, guys. I think it's a buzzword.
So if you go to bomb a building because you think a bad guy's in there, you tell the civilians, leave this building first.
That's what you want to do. Oh, okay. So let's say there's a school shooter. Let's just bomb the entire school. That's what Destiny wants to do, guys. Guys, next time there is a school shooter or a terrorist in a building, call over Destiny. He will bomb that entire building. He will happily do so because that is what he justified. Or he'll give out pamphlets to the people in the school, and as they're leaving the school, then he'll bomb them anyways. That's what Destiny wants to do, guys.
Yeah, so if you're going to bomb a building and you tell the civilians you should leave first, is that ethnically cleansing?
They're bombing them anyways.
And we pivot again, and we pivot again, Okay. I'll just keep asking.
I'm just going to keep asking them from the land.
I'm going to keep asking this until you hang up, basically. If you tell a group of civilians, hey, we're going to bomb this building, you should leave first, is that ethnically cleansing?
Yes.
Okay. So there's no way. So
and then they still bomb them anyways in that area.
So there's no way. You should never tell civilians. You understand that what you're saying right now is a direct contradiction to, like, international humanitarian law. That you're supposed to tell civilians. You're supposed to give them warning before you attack places.
It's also against international humanitarian law to collectively punish an entire group of people by just bombing the entire region.
We're not talking about collective punishment right now.
And you probably won't because you don't agree with it.
I don't agree with what?
You obviously know that there's collective punishment, but you're just avoiding it and trying to focus on one specific thing, which it is forcible transfer of a population. I agree with that. It is carried out with the intent to destroy a group. They're getting all these people out of their homes, and they're bombing them on the streets as they were walking. Like, I don't know how much more clear I can be about that.
Do you think
they are making the place uninhabitable to live?
Do you think that more or less people would have died than if they would have just stayed in their homes?
I think they should actively go and try to fight Hamas and not go and literally bomb the entire region, because they are using that as an excuse to justify the bombing of the entire region. You did another debate bro tactic there? You didn't answer my question. You just stated another factoid. So I'll ask again. Yeah. Do you think that more or less people died as a result of them leaving their homes first? I think the same amount of people would have died anyways. It's hard for me to say which more or less people would have died anyways, because, you know, we said, okay, let's say you did everything that Destiny wants you to do. You go all the way to Rafah, and you're getting bombed in Rafah anyways. You're getting bombed in the refugee camps in Rafah. Like, what is the point then? Why are we even doing that in the first place? There's people that didn't even decide to go, and they're still living in northern Gaza because they realized they were going to be bombed no matter where they went. People that went all the way to Rafah were still bombed anyways.
Okay, here's
so
a
what
question.
is the point in your eyes?
Do you agree that Gaza is one of the most densely populated areas on Earth?
Yes.
Shouldn't there be bombing attacks then where like one bomb is killing like thousands or tens of thousands of people if they're all being packed into one area and then bombed intentionally by the Israeli military?
There was a bomb in a hospital that killed like 500 people.
You know that wasn't from Israel, right? And you know that there weren't 500 people dead. You know there weren't.
Anyways,
so
I digress.
all of that has been debunked.
Yeah. And your eyes, of course.
Also, that's 500 people. Isn't that kind of weak? Shouldn't there be like bombs that have killed like 10,000 people? This is the most densely packed area on Earth, and it's
because
such a small
not everyone's gonna die from that bomb. There's people that are going to get their limbs blown off. They're gonna get injuries, critical injuries, but they're not going to directly die from it. If you look at the actual number of people that have been injured, disabled, it's way higher than the people that have been killed.
So
because the chance of, let's say, a shrapnel going and killing them, it's way different compared to someone getting their whole leg blown off. They're not going to die from that. They're going to get bleeding. But if they get the support necessary, they're not going to die immediately.
How can they get the support necessary? Wait, so you're telling me that these people who don't have access to a single fucking hospital are all surviving their limbs being blown off?
They are getting surgery done on them without anesthesia. They're getting operated on floors because they don't even have tables. They're going to hospitals that are already being broken without any equipment.
So
they're
all of the citizens are just like natural bare bones. So if you get limbs blown off, you can just like do like your mom and dad can kind of patch that up for you. What do they have? Fucking extra large band-aids?
No, they'll have like full-on clots and everything. They'll have to do stuff to try to maintain it. It's not going to be perfect, but this is the situation and the reality of that they live in.
Why do you think there are so few like individual huge bombing attacks where there should be days with tens of thousands of people being killed if Israel's goal is to like move them all into one area and just bomb them all? No, it was 1 million people that were moved out of Rafah before they did that attack there. Shouldn't they have just like bombed and killed like a couple 100,000 there, like really easy? Wouldn't it be super easy to do that?
Well, you see, there's still like people like yourself, I said, idiots that are going to try to justify this. If they bomb, let's say, the entirety of Rafah and they kill like 300,000 people, like all of Rafah is destroyed, then even people like yourself wouldn't be able to justify that. So if they do collective small bombs over a period of time that equals the amount of an atomic bomb, the amount of a nuke, it's a lot easier for people to justify that because they'll be like, oh, well, it was happening over fragments, not everyone died. If it's one big, huge attack, no one can justify that. That is the point I'm trying to make.
You understand that like your claim is literally unfalsifiable, right? You're saying that they're committing just enough war crimes that people like me would cover for it, but not enough that it would actually be easily detectable, but not even enough to actually like kill or cleanse like the people because the population is still growing and everything. But
it's still happening. I'm just saying it's not all happening at once.
What kind of evidence would I have to present to you to change your mind on this?
Show me an attack that would have killed like hundreds of thousands of people, thousands of people all at once. They're not dropping an entire nuke, like they're not dropping a bomb that's that huge that it would like cause an entire like nuclear radius.
Can't you use multiple bombs?
That's what they've been doing.
Okay, so like
but they're bombing different areas. It's not all one specific bomb.
So like when Al-Malwai or whatever, when all the people were on that beach, why didn't Israel just like bomb that beach?
They probably did. They bombed refugee camps. They bombed schools. They bombed hospitals.
No. I mean like really, but like 22,000 pound bombs and like boom, like obliterate like a quarter of the population.
So what I'm telling you is that Israel wants to be the responsible for the indirect debts, not the direct debts, because you're sitting here still talking about a 40,000 number.
No, I'm asking you. I asked you, what piece of evidence do you need to change your mind? You said, well, show me where there's a bunch of people where they could have killed a bunch. And there's tons of examples of that, but they haven't done it. So what piece of evidence would you need to change your mind?
I'm telling you that is not their intention. They do not just want to wipe out the entire population all at once. They would rather say, okay, we're going to wipe out all the essential infrastructure. These people need to live. We're going to destroy the hospitals. We're going to destroy the schools. We're going to destroy the supermarkets. They did a drone strike on a chef that was feeding thousands of people. This is how you know they have the intention to kill the people in Gaza, but they want to do it slowly over time. Then there'll be people like you that make bad faith talking points that say, oh, well, it's the responsibility of Hamas. They should have taken care of their citizens. They should have done this. When in reality, it's because of Israel's war crimes on the region, the way they destroyed all the infrastructure that led to these thousands of deaths over time. It's not all happening at once. That's what makes it easier for them to justify their actions because of people like you.
Okay, so what do you think is the goal after this war? You think they're going to kick them all out into the Sinai or what?
That's what they are intending to do. They're trying to fully ethnically cleanse the region. There's a lot of Israelis saying they want to create a beach in Gaza and they want to fully, get rid of Palestinians as a whole. When I'm telling you, they are trying to get rid of Gaza. They'll try to do the same thing with West Bank. They're going to try to go to Lebanon afterwards. This is their expansive policies of taking more land, conquering more land. This is what they want to do. This is their end goal. I'm telling you this. They have shown it.
So let's say that they so let's say after the war, let's say that they don't actually move into Gaza and they don't make any more settlements and they don't kick out any of the Palestinians. Are you going to revisit your assumption? You're gonna be like, okay, fuck, maybe I was wrong on this, or?
Yeah, I'll come back to you. If let's say that Hamas and all Palestinians are fully wiped out, if they don't go and settle in Gaza and then try to do the same thing in West Bank, same thing in Lebanon, in 5 years, I will come back to you and I will show you I have been right about everything. Unless the resistance is able to muster up enough power to fully back them off, that is not going to happen. They are going to continue expanding settlements into that region, expanding settlements in the West Bank, expanding settlements into Lebanon, Syria. That is the intention of their goals. We have seen it in Syria. We've seen it in the West Bank. They're going to continue doing it everywhere they can possible.
Okay. Do you are you sad that Assad is gone?
I honestly didn't like Assad. Like, I have reasons to not like him, but I think that as like a region, there's going to be a lot more problems now with Assad not being there because it empowered Israel a lot more. There has been times where Syria was directly defending against Israel. They had their military bases, they have their navy bases that were defending against Israeli warplanes. With Assad being gone, those bases were fully unoccupied. They had no one there left. They were able to destroy all of the military bases in Syria. And now they're basically just using Syria as a playfield. They're taking over so much land in the region. So that's where I feel like the problem really lies.
Why do you think that, like, why do you not like Assad?
I don't like his treatment of civilians. Like, he's done some bad things. He's obviously killed a lot of people. And
doesn't Assad also kind of like use, like, doesn't Hezbollah help Assad with stuff like that?
Hezbollah was attacking ISIS. That's different. But I'm talking about the actual Sunni people that were murdered under Assad's regime because they like went against them. But I've seen videos of, I saw one the other day of a woman from a village in Syria like thinking people from Hezbollah were angels that came from heaven to liberate them when they liberated their village from ISIS. Like, that's the type of shit that was happening in Syria as well too. So you have to understand that. I'm not defending Assad, like, he's done some fuck shit, but Hezbollah was looking at the situation critically. They understood that there was also a lot of problems occurring in that region with ISIS, the destabilization. That's what led to them kind of taking more of that position.
Why do you think Druze people in Syria seem to want Israel's protection more than any like new Syrian governments or anything?
Well, the new Syrian governments have a lot of fucked up people. They have a lot of rebel groups that you could say originated from Al-Qaeda, ISIS. You see a lot of them with ISIS patches on them. And Druze people, for some reason, tend to be more inclined towards the Israeli government, which I disagree with. There's a lot of Druze, like, for example, in the Golan Heights, that hate Israel. They do not want to be a part of it at all. They do not consider themselves Israeli, and they consider themselves Syrian. So it depends on the region. Druze people aren't just one, like, binary thing that's like one specific group of people. Like, they all have different views. There's Druze people that agree with it more, and there's Druze people that fully hate the occupation. It really depends on the person.
Are there any Arab majority countries that have good relationships with their minority populations?
Yeah, Lebanon has a good relationship with Druze people. They don't do anything harmful towards them. I mean, they collectively fuck up the entire
Lebanon
country.
is like a super struggling state right now to even have control over itself. Besides Lebanon, is there an example? Because Lebanon was also kind of founded explicitly to be this like like equal parts government.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also disagree with the way the government is based on that.
Why do you disagree with that?
The government is based off of like religion, which I believe is going to cause a lot of problems. I'd recommend you look into Kamal Jumblat. He's a really, really sick guy. He was one of the main Lebanese politicians for the Lebanese Socialist Party, and he really supported Lebanon, and he wanted to collectively destroy the religious conflicts within the government, because in Lebanon, I don't know if you've looked into it, the president has to be Christian, the prime minister has to be Sunni, the I forget, another position has to be Shia. The finance minister has to be Druze. Like they literally differentiate everything based off religion, and that's what creates so much conflict, you know. So I think that needs to be fully disbanded because it's caused so many issues over time, and that was implemented by France.
Are there a bunch of secular leaders in any other Arab state?
Technically you could say so. Like you could consider like Hezbollah like a secular leader now. They've gained like a lot of political power in Lebanon. But I don't know too much about like the other Arab states. I mainly just
You'd say that Hezbollah is like a secular group?
Yeah, I would say so. They originated as a resistance group to go against Israel, and then they ended up gaining more power and going into political means.
Say like Nasrallah was like a strong like secular leader figure for Hezbollah?
Oh, Nasrallah?
Was a strong secular? Okay. All right, well,
I guess that's it. So you heard it here, guys. Destiny does not condemn collective punishment. And yeah, that was basically it. He consistently had bad faith debate bro tactics the entire time, tried cutting me off at every point. He did not address any of my things and went off technicalities. It's exactly what I expected, but I hope people were able to understand the Palestinian liberation movement a lot more and understand that this is a conflict between occupiers and occupied, and not the way that Destiny tries to frame it.
Awesome. I'll just reiterate my point earlier that if you ever want to see peace in the Middle East, the most important thing you can do is to get people from outside the region to stop talking about it, because holy fucking AIDS. That would be the number one.
Yeah, definitely people like Destiny, guys. We should get him to stop talking about it.
Or at the very least, people who are whiter than me should not be talking about the Middle East. We'll just go with that.
Yeah, this light's not doing me any favors right now. I look hella white in it. But also, I'm white because my family is from the mountains of Lebanon, which historically received like not a lot of sun there, and the region's very white there.
Really? If you're in the mountains, shouldn't you be closer to the sun?
It's not how it works, bro.
Okay.
It's not hotter there.
Okay. Can I do a thing real quick?
Sure.
Wait, am I allowed to ask your age?
I'm 22.
Okay. Okay. There's a lot of different debates that I've had on this topic with a lot of different types of people. My issue with...
I'm definitely the best one.
Sure. Yeah, so far, yeah. My issue with the debates relating to the region is I feel like there are two very, very separate stories that get told, and the stories make it so that both sides have no chance of ever reconciling with each other. So if you are a Palestinian, then you've been living in the region peacefully with Jews for millennia, and a whole bunch of evil Jewish people came from Europe after getting Britain to backstab them after World War I, and then they came and they took over the region. They raped and killed all your people, and then they blew shit up, and they kept expanding, and they just fucked you over. And that's like the history of the Jews in the region. And then if you are a super ultra Zionist, then your perspective is Britain made you a promise. You were getting Holocausted in Europe. Arabs were fucking you over and trying to kill you for literally no reason over and over again in the Middle East. And that these are like the two separate stories that get told by both groups of people. And there are elements of truth to both, but both of them miss crucial aspects on the other side. So that got diving into a billion different things. So the most commonly retold stuff in the beginning of the region, there was a super Zionist, I'm assuming she's super Zionist, a couple of them that I've argued with. I'm thinking of a debate I had recently with Eilat, I think Eilat Winf or something. I don't know, fucking name, something like that. And her story was that Jewish people came to the Middle East in the early 1900s, and they wanted to kumbaya with the Arabs, and for literally no reason, the Arabs started to bomb them and kill them, and then the Jews had to fight back, desperately while they were getting holocausted and attacked by the Arabs, and that's like where the whole like start of the conflict came from, which is obviously ridiculous because obviously if you're an Arab after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, all of the kind of like states around you are starting to become states like Iraq in Lebanon and Syria and Egypt and Jordan, like everybody's getting a state, and then all of a sudden you get a bunch of Jews coming in, so you're feeling like invaded. It's not cool. But then when I argue against Palestinians, I get this like the Arabs welcomed the Jews with open arms, and they wanted to also kumbaya, and then the Jews out of nowhere started to attack them. It's just like an example of like you can go like at every single stage of Israeli-Palestinian history. The way the '67 war gets retold is crazy. The way that the conflict leading up to the Suez Crisis in '56 is retold like a million different ways. The ways of the Yom Kippur War is retold a million different ways. Conflict with Syria and Lebanon is retold in a million different ways. Like all of these things get retold over and over again. And the frustrating part about talking about any of these issues is that it feels like everybody kind of has these talking points, and then when people go and they argue or debate them, it's like, here's a talking point for how the other side is completely, totally fucking evil. And as long as that conversation happens that way and it continues to go in that way, there's literally no reconciliation. And yeah. This is just my perspective on it. If you go and listen to me debate anybody on the right Zionist side, and I encourage it, I think Simcha Rockman or something, or that Eilert Wilf, like if you go and watch either of those debates, I don't know what you would think about it, but my guess is you would either be surprised, or if you're like an Israeli person, because I get a bunch of mean emails from Israeli people when I have these debates, is they think that I'm a crazy pro-Palestinian person. So like, for instance, if like October 7th had happened, I've said this before and I continue to say this, if the October 7th attacks had happened in the West Bank, I would care substantially less, because the Israeli like objective right now is literally to just slowly kind of like take over more and more and more of the West Bank, which is another reason why I get upset when people talk about like Gaza and like, oh, they're trying to occupy Gaza and put settlements up in Gaza. I don't think that's the goal. I don't think Israelis give a fuck about Gaza that much. I think what they really want is the West Bank, because of all the crazy religious bullshit, right? That's why they call it Sumerian Judea and their historic lands and the blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I don't know why I'm ranting at you. It's just frustrating because I get labeled by both sides of this just like insane shit. It's very frustrating. And I think that the issue itself is like really complicated and really, there's a lot of stories to be told on both sides. And it just frustrates me when I feel like only one side of the story gets told. And then on the West, you know, we get to kind of like circle jerk and say like how cool it is that we have our positions. But like realistically, there's no approach to a solution because, yeah, the stories people tell are so insane. Like I feel like, I'm not trying to push you on this, but like, I think if you were a Jew in Israel, I think there's like good reason to be afraid of living in an ethnic minority state if you're Jewish. Like I think that's a fair concern given Jews' experience with every other Arab state in the Middle East. But I think it's also understandable why if you're a Palestinian and you're living, you know, in a camp in fucking Syria or Lebanon for your entire life, maybe your parents have for their entire life, right? Because there are people that have been pushed out since 48 or 67, why they might feel like, well, this is bullshit. I don't want to move back to just like the West Bank or the Gaza Strip. But I think as long as we tell like the harshest side of each story and the other side isn't willing to like acknowledge anything on the other side, it just feels like intractable, I guess. But
I don't think it's complicated at all. I think there's an occupier and occupied, and we should decolonize Palestine. Free Palestine. That's what I believe.
I hope you buy a thick enough rope. All right, good luck. Why, I don't know why I wasted my time. What a waste of time. I don't know why. Just fuck me. Okay, it's all good. Okay. So I need to, not everybody was here for like all of the research streams, so I understand sometimes why I just like don't respond. It seems like maybe I should put a stronger argument out or some bullshit. Somebody made a list of the talking points. Sorry, so I have to like run through some of these. Why don't I engage more with his points? They will just spin this on all of you. I mean, I am kind of, but like, it's like if somebody were to argue that like America is an evil country, it's like, why do you think it's evil? And it's like, because A starts with asshole and America. It's like, sorry, somebody made a list of things. Racial apartheid in Israel, but actually based on citizenship. Okay, well, Palestinian Arabs are just collaborators accepting occupation is different. Okay, here's my perspectives on things, okay? Just so that you know, all right? The reason why, personally, I don't like the apartheid conversation in Israel is because apartheid implies, as he said in his own definition, a form of racial domination. And the big issue that's happening right now between Israel and Palestine is not one of racial domination, it's a territorial dispute. That's the big issue. Now, the fact that it's a territorial dispute doesn't take away from maybe some racial or religious aspects to the conflict, but it's largely the dispute is territorial. Like, what do I mean when I say that? When I say that, what I mean is that if you resolve the territorial dispute, the apartheid goes away. You can't resolve the apartheid. If you believe there is apartheid, you can't resolve the apartheid without resolving the territorial dispute. So any issues relating to apartheid stop with the territorial issue. And the issue is right now, Palestinians who live in the West Bank do live under a fucked, weird system of weird shit where, I don't know if he got this point out correctly or even properly or whatever, but if you're a citizen in the West Bank and, if you're a citizen of Israel and you live in the West Bank, my understanding is that generally, if you commit a crime or you do something wrong, you get to be tried in Israeli court. But if you're a citizen of the West Bank, like you're a Palestinian, you're not a citizen of Israel, and you commit a crime, you're tried under Israeli military tribunal. There are differences between these systems and how people are treated and the rights afforded to you, right? This is not good. It's not a good thing. My ordinary response would be that it's not a big deal because obviously it's a military occupation, but a military occupation is like a short-term temporary thing. This is a military occupation that's happened for almost 60 years, okay? And if you're Israel, you can't be of the mindset that like, well, it's not apartheid, this is a military occupation. And it's like, okay, well, you know that it's like a war crime to move your civilians into occupied territory, right? Like, well, no, hold on, it's not occupied territory, this is all like part of the country of Israel. Okay, well then if it's all part of the country of Israel, why can't these people vote? Well, they can't vote because of military occupation, right? You can't have it both ways, you have to pick one. Okay, you can't have it both ways. Now, Israel knows that, and there are sneaky, complicated ways that come from Oslo 1 and Oslo 2 with how Area C and then A and B work and how the territory is divvied up and where Jewish citizens are allowed to live and who gets to vote or whatever. But that has to be resolved. That's the thing that has to be resolved. But it's the territorial thing. The territorial thing is what needs to be resolved to get rid of that. Nothing to do with apartheid. And the apartheid thing misses the whole everything that like the Palestinians, you know, are because they're Arabs and blah, blah, blah. It's just not, yeah, it's just dumb. The Kingdom of Israel never existed. Well, yeah, there are Jews indigenous to the Levant. Oh, that was dumb. The Kingdom of Israel certainly existed. There is some Arabs. I don't know if Arafat started this idea or if this was actually Mahmoud Abbas. The idea that the Temple, I mixed these things up. Temple Mount is the foundation of the second temple, right? Is right? And then Al-Aqsa Mosque is the Muslim mosque that's built on top of that in the compound or whatever, right? I believe, yeah. Some Arabs, if you ever hear people fighting over like digging tunnels or building anything under the temple, the reason why people get really mad is that Arabs are scared, or this. I'm not trying to be racist or religiousist or whatever, okay? But there's probably a conspiracy in the Arab world or in the Muslim world that nothing exists under the Temple Mount. There was no Kingdom of Israel there. And so people get very, very, very touchy about digging there because if Jews were to find anything under there, it would undermine a huge part of I think of like the Muslim narrative about what's happened in and around like the Temple Mount. So that's like a big deal for why people don't like to, don't like to talk about like digging under there. I don't think it's disputed historically that there was the Kingdom of Israel there. Claims about the countries of Palestine and Lebanon during the Ottoman Empire. So prior to 1917, prior to the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, there was the Ottoman Empire. I think there were large like regions under the Ottoman Empire. My Ottoman history is not great, but my Ottoman history is not great. But I think that there were a few regions within the Ottoman Empire that were like that had very strong identities, and then there were like large swaths of land that were kind of like, just like a bunch of people like kind of move around or whatever. It's like I think was it called like the Khediviate of Egypt or whatever. I think Egypt had like a very strong identity. I think within the Ottoman Empire, I don't remember if it was called Turkey, under the Ottoman Empire, but like whatever came prior to that, like those people, the Turkmen or whatever, had a very strong identity, which is why I think even after the collapse of the Ottoman Empire, they fought like a mini revolution afterwards to like have their territory and just be their thing. But like that whole, I just call it the Levant, I think that Levant like stretches from the Suez to up into, I think, Syria, Lebanon. I could be wrong in it's like this whole fucking region, I think. I didn't know it extended this far into like where Jordan and Syria are, but the Levant is just like this big, like Syria, Palestine, maybe. Actually, that might even be the name of it before, actually. I'm sorry. It's like Syria, Palestina or whatever. But I don't think there weren't like distinct borders between these places, which is another reason why, I can explain some of the things. This guy was saying some things, Turkmen are not the same as Turks. Sorry. That's true. I've been correct on that a lot. I don't know the differences actually, but when he said like, oh, what is a Palestine? That's obvious. The Palestinians and what a Palestinian is, that's actually like a huge subject of the Israel-Palestine debate, because your staunchest of pro-Zionists are going to say that like Palestinians themselves like aren't real at all. They're literally just like Levant Arabs or Ottoman Arabs, or they're nothing at all, And then depending upon how charitable or favorable you are to the Palestinian narrative, you can back it up to 47, 48, where obviously they're fighting a war and there are Palestinians. You can back it up earlier to the, I want to say the Mufasa. That's not his name. Mustafa? What do you call the guy? Oh my God, I'm forgetting the names. Al-Husseini? The what of Jerusalem? What was his name? The what of Jerusalem? It's not Mufasa. It's the Mufti of Jerusalem. That in like the 1910s and 1920s, Palestinian identity started to form more in response, especially to Jewish immigration. But regardless of what you think the answer is, that's a really big question. Like, what is a Palestinian? I did give a more like lefty answer than I think may actually be true. I'm not sure, but when I was in Israel, at least the group of Palestinian Arabs that I was talking to, now they were Loner Box's friends, so maybe they were more left than not. They said that they don't consider themselves like Arab Israelis. They consider themselves like Palestinian Israelis, or maybe Palestinian Arab Israelis. But there's probably like 3 layers of analysis that you could do on that, where they might consider themselves Palestinian Israelis, but maybe older Palestinian Israelis just consider themselves Arab Israelis, but maybe Palestinians that aren't in Israel wouldn't consider them Palestinian Israelis because, like this guy said, they sold out to the Israeli Zionists, and there's like identity issues there. But that's a whole identity is a very complicated thing, I think, in Israel and Palestine. Identity is a very complicated thing. And it's used to attack people a lot as well, right? When you see people saying things like, go back to Europe or go back to Brooklyn, right? That's an attack on the Jewish identity. Oh, Jews are foreign transplants. That's a dog whistle for stuff like that. Claims about the countries of Palestine and Lebanon during the Ottoman Empire, there was a railroad connecting them. I don't know this. I mean, there was travel all throughout the Ottoman Empire, but at that point in the debate, he meant Palestine is the West Bank, but he don't want to say Palestine is just the West Bank and not the whole of Israel. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you could see him playing fast and loose with the definitions as well. Lebanon is a functioning democracy and Hezbollah are not occupiers. That's just a propaganda claim. Basically, anybody that claims otherwise are just like America bad, Israel bad. Like, I didn't ask him about the Houthis, but my guess is he probably supports the Houthis. Just to clarify, even Muslims believe in the kingdom of the Jews. They believe in Moses and the Israelites and that they occupied that land even in the Quran. So if anyone is denying this, they are probably just insane anti-Semitic wackos. I don't know if I'd say anti-Semitic insane wackos, but I know that like some of the Palestinian identity, because I believe that Arafat believed this as well, and I think Mahmoud Abbas believes this, that there is no temple underneath the Temple Mount, that that's all like a Jewish conspiracy, I believe, is what they've said, I think. I don't know what Arabs outside of Israel-Palestine believe. Maybe that's not as widespread, or Muslims. I don't know. Maybe that's not as widespread of a Muslim belief. Didn't answer if October 7th was justified. Oh, he probably believed in a ton of conspiracies about that, whatever. Tons of starvation deaths, thousands. Well, okay, it's not possible to verify now that I am. peace agreement, but actually a temporary ceasefire. There's a difference between a ceasefire and a peace agreement. And I'm stressing this because ordinarily I'd say it's maybe whatever, doesn't matter. But if you don't have a formal peace agreement, so right now, Syria and Israel are in an awkward place because Syria has in the past said, fuck you, Israel. We don't have borders. Remember, a lot of the borders in the Middle East were just drawn up, they were drawn in military conflict. They're armistice lines. Well, now that Syria is gone, those aren't like I don't think those are technically real borders. I don't know if they've ever been agreed upon by both sides as real borders. So if Israel's like, oh, you know what? Maybe we are going to creep up here and take some more land. I mean, I don't think that those two countries have ever agreed on what the borders between those two countries look like. Not for whose fault that is. I mean, it goes back and forth. But and then warning civilians to leave an area before you bomb it is ethnically cleansing is obviously stupid. Yeah. How do you continue with these talks when someone treats this conversation with little care about the actual situation and acts smugly as if they care the most about it? I don't know. It's just like everybody. Disagreements, VC real quick. No, every single time I do these debates, I don't want 50 million Israelis coming in and giving, I'm good. Okay, I don't need like 12 hours on, listen, I appreciate it, okay, it's all good. Make a subreddit post, right? He ironically thought there were several 100,000 dead in Gaza. Yeah, but that's because his perspective on the war is all the tweets and memes and shit that he's seen and read. That's it. That's like where all of the information comes from, right? But yeah, they're just repeating like all the talking points, basically. You still get blasted by UV radiation in the mountains, even if it's not warmer there. Oh yeah, I don't actually know. I don't know if you can sunburn using the mountains. I'm just like memeing at that point. Regarding the famine, were you specifically combating that people have died from starvation because there does seem to be a hunger crisis in Gaza? 133,000 people, or 6% of the enclave's population, are already experiencing phase 5 or catastrophic food insecurity. I think, didn't they like literally get rid of that whole definition or whatever? Or is this recent? Oh, this is October 17th. I don't believe that phase 5, all that bullshit was bullshit. I don't trust anything that I read about Israel Palestine now without like I have to read all the underlying material. Otherwise, it's all bullshit. There was a claim before that there were more hungry people in Palestine. There were more IPC 5 people, category 5 people, which is like a designation for starvation. There were more of those people in Palestine than in the rest of the world combined, which doesn't pass the smell test immediately because there are like very few starvation deaths in Palestine, and there are like tens of thousands in other countries. So I don't know how that's even possible, but yeah, so I don't know. It just seems goofy. But it's crazy, the cartoon version of the world that exists in these people's minds. Yeah, it's annoying though, because it's like everything is so simplistic and stupid that it makes it impossible to do anything. If Israel warns civilians, they leave, and then Israel never allows them to return, how is that not ethnic cleansing of that area? It probably would be. That probably would be considered ethnic cleansing. Do you not get tired of this? Yeah, of course I'm tired of this. It's tiring, it's boring, it's stupid. Also, how did that guy go from I grew up in Lebanon to I was there for a couple years when I was 2? Part 1, part 2. Have you ever been to Lebanon before?
Yeah, I grew up there. I lived there most of my life.
Where?
In El Shuf.
I don't even know where that is.
Quite corrupt in terms of their political standards.
Wait.
But in terms of the way they treat people.
How long did you live in Lebanon for?
A couple of years when I was younger.
Okay, you said you grew up in Lebanon. Now you said you lived there for 2 years. Hezbollah is just a resistance group?
2 years. Said a couple of years.
Like what? Have you ever been to Lebanon before?
Yeah, I grew up there. I lived there most of my life.
Where?
In El Shuf.
Shuf is a mostly Druze village in Lebanon. Okay. Okay. Post-debate analysis.
Bro, because he's bringing up bad faith tactics, bruh. I know that. Because he's like, oh yeah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, you got to understand the
Can somebody help me? There's some,
reason for this.
hold on. There's some volume somewhere on the kick player that I've like lowered that I need. Show all controls. There's a volume that I've lowered on this player. Where can I change it at? It's somewhere. Why do I have no volume bars on this fucking computer anymore? Wait, do I have them on? Something is wrong. Fuck me. It's one of these stupid fucking plugins. Put it in picture-in-picture and you'll get a volume bar. No. I think one of my... I think one of these plugins is fucking it up. Or extensions, or whatever the fuck this is called. Extensions? Is we just like turn these off for a second? What? Oh, wait. I don't understand. Is this computer just not allowed to change the volume or anything? Because I have the same issue when I do Twitter clips as well. Like I have no volume control on anything, and I don't know why. It's just mute or unmute. But if I bring it up on my other computer, I have a volume slider. Why? It's Chrome on both computers. It's just Kick and Twitter? How is that possible? Kick both sites? You being A/B tested by both sites? Is the window scaling different? It could be the size of the players. No. Is there a way to clear the cache for like a single site? A/B testing would be from Chrome if it is indeed a feature? No. From, you think Chrome is getting rid of volume sliders? Wait, hold on. Enable modern media controls. This is a 6-year-old fucking... If you right click it, do you see... No, when I click show all controls, I don't even see it anywhere. Like the controls aren't popping up anywhere. Click on the Chrome symbol next to the URL on the website to remove cache. Click on the Chrome symbol next to the URL. This thing? Do you think that got rid of anything? Reload this page. Use the add-on you've disabled, volume mixer, and you can boost the volume to bypass this. Yeah, I just don't know why. I don't understand why I don't have volume sliders on this computer anymore. Like, I don't have it on my Twitter videos either. It's Kick's dog shit website. Why is it happening on Twitter too, then? Did you disable volume slider in startup? Is there a volume slider Chrome flag? Does it work when you do incognito? I don't know if I can do this stupid fucking... Oh. Yeah, even in incognito! What the fuck?
Go. Alright.
Okay, whatever.
Bro, because he's bringing up bad faith tactics, bruh. I know that.
Oh, I think it reset to 100% volume at least. That's good.
Because he's like, oh yeah, blah, blah. I'm like, bro, you gotta understand the reason for this happening is because of Zionism. He's literally acting like, oh, they just started attacking Jewish people for no reason. I'm not justifying it happening in the other lands, but it happened because of Zionism. That's the point I was trying to make. This guy's a fucking idiot, bro. And then at the end, he tried going on some long rant. Oh yeah, we should have a peaceful thing, and people are disingenuous on both sides. I was like, no, this is basic as fuck. It's fucking, bruh. You should have let him lie about his position. He's not a centrist. He doesn't view the two names. I know, bruh. That's the type of shit. He was lying, but I don't view him at all. So he could just lie and be like, yeah, I never agreed with this. I never believed it.
Okay. Is this the same clip? Yeah. I hate how like passionate people feel and like they don't even know like you live on me, you don't know what a Palestinian is. Palestinian is a person that lives in Palestine. What is Palestine? Loving. Like these are like the major issues. Why? You said Hezbollah was a secular group, LeMayo. They are elected, LOL. Okay. October 7th. Before the media tries convincing you that Israel are the victims and that Palestinians are terrorists, please remember this map and realize that people could never be comrades with their own oppressors. The map. The legendary map. I do wish there was a clear way just to divide this up, but I don't think that's ever going to be possible. They can go find somewhere else to live. I don't care. There you go. Just say that instead of saying I think they could live together peacefully. This was posted on October 7th, by the way. Yeah. Can you explain again what was wrong with this map? The Palestinians didn't technically live on all of this territory even, and this whole territory was under the British mandate for Palestine. This wasn't the country of Palestine in 46. In 47, this divvying up the territory was the UN partition plan. I believe it was presented as, I think it was partition 181, or I'm sorry, resolution 181. This was rejected by the Palestinians and the Arabs. From 49 to 67, after 48, these are the borders that basically were temporarily agreed to, because this is where the armistice lines were from the people that fought in this war, which was Israel and all the surrounding Arab countries. This was not Palestine. This was Jordan. Jordan occupied this territory. It literally gave citizenship to all of these people. I believe informally annexed it. Palestinians were mad enough that the king of Jordan was assassinated in Jerusalem over it in 1950. The Gaza Strip here was owned by Egypt. And then after 67, there was a big war. Now the West Bank is like in some weird occupational limbo, and the Gaza Strip is in some weird occupational limbo. But okay. All right. Fun times. Egypt administered Gaza. They didn't own it. No, they owned it. They set up some little like puppet Palestinian government, and I think in a year they recalled it to Cairo and then disbanded it.
Now, you know Destiny, the guy who is like,
what is this?
He's like a YouTube arguer. He comes on, he's like, well, actually, and they,
Oh,
like,
that guy, I've seen that guy.
so
yeah,
he a sex tape dropped, and dude, everyone's like, oh,
Jesus. I didn't hear about this. My God. Sounds like fake news.
Once a year, I make a video that I regret.
I'm begging you to stop caring. In your view, how bad faith was this guy on a scale from 1 to 10? It depends on what you mean by bad faith. It like the problem is that he doesn't know much about anything. Like when you're saying like a human rights org, like it's Bet Salem. This is like the organization in Israel. It was created specifically to track like Palestinian stuff and like human rights violations. To just like even just referring to them like, oh, a human rights org. That's just like a kind of a weird. It's not immediately disqualifying, to be clear. I'm sorry, that's not immediately disqualifying, but like this is like the language of somebody who hasn't like, it's not super formal. Or like when you're just like, oh, like UNRWA, like that's like a human org or human rights org. UNRWA is not. That's like saying that like the U.S. government is just like a government in North America or whatever. It's like, no, it's just like UNRWA is the organization that was created to administer to Palestinians after, I believe it was after 48 is when UNRWA was created, right? Yeah, but he just doesn't know much. He just has like talking points. So like, was he bad faith? I mean, like I would say he used like bad faith argumentation tactics, like pivoting and stuff, but it was because it was born out of like the fact that he has no knowledge of anything he's talking about, right? He has no context for anything. He just like a kind of like a collection of disparate and discrete facts or like discrete quotes in his head or like little factoids that he can throw out, and that's it. He has no idea about anything else. Like, yeah. Like when he didn't know that like the Ottoman Empire was there before yeah. Yeah. Which ordinarily, like, I'm not here to like quiz people or whatever bullshit. I very rarely do that. But like when you're saying things like, you got to understand the history, you got to understand the history, it's like, okay, well, wait, do you know anything? I don't know. He's just quoting the exact quotes from the Nathan Robinson article against you? Oh yeah, maybe. What's up with the Palestine stuff? I think that was how it was like pronounced. I don't know. It's like Palestine, like I don't know how to pronounce it. There's like technically better or more authentic or Arabic pronunciations, I think, for some of the things. because like Palestine comes from like Philistine and then like Palestina or whatever, some bullshit. I don't know. I don't know all the different random fucking bullshit. Okay, that's how you pronounce it in Arabic. Okay. There's no P in Arabic. How would they call you a pussy then? Got him.